Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SuperShow podcast, episode number 85. I'm your host for this week, Jamie, and joining me, I'm very glad to be able to say, is my brother-in-arms on the front lines of gaming, on the battlefield of video games, Chris Christopherson. Welcome, buddy. Good to see you.
Thank you, buddy. Please don't use my real name. Use my stage name, please.
I've just put your government name out on record,
You've
out
doxed
on
me,
blast.
dude. Come on.
There we go. Everyone Google Chris Christopherson, London, and find out everything you need to know about the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Wow.
Thank you very much for being here, Chris. But I'm glad to be able to say that we're not alone this week because we are joined by another living legend. Straight out of the critically acclaimed Just Interesting podcast. He is, I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first ever two-time guest in SuperShow podcast
history.
Is
that right?
Wow.
Oh, that's a privilege.
I think that might be the case. You might know him as the Frugal Gamer, but me and his friends know him as Martin Ruffle. Martin, welcome.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me. And I imagine that probably the Frugal Game actually exists in a different capacity. So don't look that up because I imagine that does probably exist.
There's going to be someone else entirely, yeah.
Exactly. No, pleasure to be here. And thank you for inviting me on in Jamie's absence. I hear that he's gone to rescue a child.
Where's
from
Jamie
a well.
gone?
Wow.
Jamie,
Jonesy.
That's
Jonesy.
embarrassing.
Oh,
Jonesy.
Yeah, I was worried for a second. I was like, where'd Jamie go?
Someone might listen to that and presume that perhaps like this is one of those things where it's like a digital friendship that perhaps we met as fellow podcasters and don't know that much about each other's lives.
I have no idea who you are.
What they might not know is that Martin, Chris, and I have known each other for about 8 years now, and so there really is no forgiveness for what you've just done.
There's no excuse.
So
There's no excuse apart from the fact that I've just had a new child, just started a new job. I'm pretty tired. And you guys start much later on this podcast than I'm used to on, the podcast that I do as a weekly event.
The Just Interesting podcast. Tell us about it. I'm a patron.
Oh, I thought you never asked. Yeah, no, Just Interesting. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. We cover topics that are not boring and not too interesting. They're just interesting. So there we go.
Martin, would you mind if I start a competitor called Just Really Boring?
Do it. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Sounds good. We can have a bit of a rivalry going on.
Yeah, I like it.
I know which one I'd support. I'm not going to lie. One of them sounds at least a little bit more appealing than the other on face value. And that's the Just a Little Bit Boring podcast. I'm a new patron. I'm proud to announce my patronage. Now, everyone going. I would like to think a lot of you would have already because the Just Interesting boys have been our brothers in arms on the podcasting front for many a month now.
Hell yeah.
Yes, if you haven't already, go and check out everything Martin and the boys do over at Just Interesting on YouTube and on podcasting platforms of your choice. And if that sounds familiar, that's because that's kind of the same spiel we say at the beginning of every week too about our podcast, which is the one that, go figure, you're currently listening to. That's right, it's the Super Show. We're available on YouTube, we're available on podcasting platforms of your choice, we're available on social media platforms like Twitter, where you can find us at the handle at Super Show Pod. So by all means, get involved, like and follow the podcast if that's an option. If you can rate, then maybe rate the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then there's all kinds of ways you can engage with us. You could leave a comment, for example. We sometimes read them, and we even pick out comments of the week at the last minute, just before we start recording the next week's podcast, because we are so in tune with our community.
Hell yeah. We should probably start replying to some of those comments, to be fair.
I used to do it all the time, and then it sounds like a bad excuse, but it's the only excuse I've got. I usually get the impulse to do it at like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll wait till the next day. And then the moment's gone.
I'm the same as you. But can I give people a little bit of a behind the scenes, an Easter egg, if you will? If you watch, like, I don't know if you've seen those things where they'll take two parts of like a series of movies. Let's say 2 different movies or TV show or whatever. And we even did it where you synced up the separate trailers of Death Stranding. And if you sync them up at a particular point, something will happen in the one trailer and then it'll transfer and affect something in the other trailer. Well, the Easter egg for you is if you listen to this podcast while simultaneously listening to the Just Interesting podcast, we're totally in sync. It makes 100% like sense.
Wow.
It's quite spooky how we've achieved this. So go try it out.
Just don't tell them, Chris, what happens when you take the latest Patreon exclusive piece of content that the Super Show produced, the latest piece of Patreon exclusive content that Just Interesting have produced, and the latest trailer from Hassan Karaman and Blue Box Studios is Abandoned.
Oh, yes.
And play all three of those at the same time.
Basically,
it turns out, you die, but you come just before you die. So
interesting. See, I wasn't going to say you die. I was going to say that swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say that you get a knock on your door. And Hideo Kojima is there, and all he says is 7 days, and then he walks away. And then in 7 days' time, just random point of the day, you bust a nut. But then the jizz pulls up, and it just says Hideo Kojima.
Abandoned.
Oh, and that's the point. Yeah,
abandoned. Yes, this is abandoned.
Also, as you're nutting, Hideo Kojima returns, strangles you to death, and you realize you're actually caught up in a 7-day loop. Right? And you have to figure out what's going on.
I like
and
it.
we're now starting to tease stuff that's going to come later on in the podcast, so I'm going to stop doing that.
Hey.
Look, Martin.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of what you and the JI boys do, and I didn't invite you on here just to put you to shame, but there is one way that the Super Show has a leg up on what you guys are doing at the moment.
Okay, go.
And that is, I don't think, in all honesty, you can say, hand on heart, that you are internet radio porn stars. Am I right?
No, this is true. I mean, we're not big in Scottish radio, so, you know, where are we big if we're not big in Scottish radio?
Exactly. In fact, that's the age-old expression. My mother had that stitched in a pillow. If you're not big in Scottish radio, where are you big? And we are big in one specific tiny portion of Scottish digital radio, and that's Paisley Radio, folks, over at paisleyradio.com. If you wanted to tune in and listen and get involved, it's being broadcast into your ears at Thursdays at 10 p.m. If you miss it, it repeats on Mondays. That link, once again, paisleyradio.com. If you want to catch a live, unfiltered, and technically identical to what you're listening to right now version of the Super Show, that is the place to be. Right.
Very good.
Jamie,
shall we?
Jamie, sorry, before we carry on, just want to give you an update on our charts. And we've actually climbed up on the Irish Apple Podcasts slot, and we are now number 31 for video games as a category.
That is very good. That is very good.
You say it's pretty good, but on Apple Podcasts, we are number 208 in Australia.
I mean,
it still sounds pretty good.
I'm worried now, though, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, Paisley natives cover your ears, but are we in the wrong nation? Should we be Irish radio? Like, should we be on Kilkenny Radio?
Kilkenny Radio. I don't think they'd have us, to be honest. I think we kind of lucked out with Paisley Radio.
I think there's a fair amount of blasphemy going on, and Ireland's still a fairly heavily Catholic country. You've got to be quite careful with these things.
Okay, I thought you were saying we were blasphemous for not being loyal to Paisley Radio, and I thought you were
trying
to way into your own Paisley Radio deal. See, this is the thing: when podcasts come together, the elbows do come out.
Yeah,
you know where else elbows come out? Is in the classic first-person shooter death matches against your friends. And what better game to celebrate classic death matches than in the old-school smash hit Quake?
Quake
sound familiar?
Martin, I think you need to take a shot for that laboured segue.
Shall we all have a drink? Oh, is that?
I mean, it's not non-alcoholic, mine, but yeah, cheers.
I think Martin's the only person actually with the balls to drink.
It looks like juice. Yours look more like beers than this, probably, but it is what it is.
Actually, yeah. If I hid the giant M, the devil's horns upside down.
Yeah, it looks like a beer can for those
what's this?
audio
This could
listeners.
Be like a carling or something.
What is that?
Or
Have you got that, Chris?
a red stripe.
That is literally just Coke Zero.
Oh, new can. Is that a new can? I don't know if they've changed it. The last Coke Zero can I had was like a black can with red writing. They've gone all out and created a red can with black writing.
Oh, Martin, you don't know the half of it. That's not just a new can. That's new Coke Zero.
Yeah, it's a new taste.
No, it's always the
It's
same,
weird.
isn't it? It's
I don't
always
like
the same. You just taste the same always. What's the difference?
No. This does taste different. And you know what? I never noticed it until Jamie pointed it out. And ever since he's pointed it out, I can't untaste the difference.
What did you point out? I'm intrigued.
Say it, Chris. Say the word.
What?
Oh, I thought you were going to point out the flavour that I recognised.
That's what I'm wondering. What does it taste like?
It
Just more aspartame.
So when no, almost the opposite. Now, Chris is obviously drinking it as we speak, so he's going to have to back me up on this. I remember when I started drinking them, I was pleased at first, and I started getting a weird note that I couldn't get out of my head, and then eventually went off it altogether. And it was almost like a spice note,
I think,
like a kind of like a cinnamon-y kind of flavor.
But it's not cinnamon. I think I know what it is. I think it's clove.
You know what? Like it's something like that.
Clove, yeah.
I mean,
you know the spice that you do in your Christmas ham.
They do add spices to Coke though. That is what it is, right? It is pretty much sugar and spice.
I think like cloves have probably always been in Coke, but it's just like the levels are just kind of a bit weird, man.
They've just gone they've gone heavy on the clove game.
Yeah, exactly. Like you know how they made the Sugar Puff Girls or whatever they were called.
Powerpuff Girls. Sugar Puff Girls. What?
That's the ones. Yeah. That's like. Do you remember the animated intro to that? Where he's like, "Oh no, I put too much cloves, and now these girls have come out of it,
and they're witches."
I think exactly. I think it's a very similar process.
I don't remember that. I've got to be honest, but I take your word for it.
Do you know what, Martin? Making a Coca-Cola, even a Coca-Cola light product, is a unique kind of alchemy. And you know what else is a unique kind of alchemy? Making a successful video game. And that's exactly what id Software did way back in the day when they revolutionized the first-person shooter scene with their smash hit release, Quake. Is that name? Oh my god, a cat!
What? Where?
That's sensational. You don't. Come on, Martin.
A cat with
Martin's
no tail. If anyone rewinds that back on YouTube, you go back a few seconds, you'll see that the cat has no tail. You lost it a few months back.
No, Martin, just go get your pussy and put it in front of the camera.
Whoa, steady on. Whoa. Terms of service, Chris. Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Paisley Radio will be. They'll be cutting ties with you. Although having said that, you said much worse.
Very true. Very true. Should we actually talk about video games?
Yes, Quake. You badly segued into it twice. Let's talk about it.
Oh, God. Do you know what? Fuck you.
You know what? I'd gladly. Come on over.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah.
Come on over, baby.
We can arrange it. Let's put something in the diary. I'll pencil you in.
Nice.
Look, the reason I kept bringing up Quake is because Quake is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year.
That's mad.
Wowee. I know. Chris, that probably makes you feel old. Like,
yeah,
you remember your 28th birthday and getting Quake.
Wow,
unwrapping it.
Thanks. I'm not that old, thankfully, but no, it's bad because I remember being in the school's computer lab and like sneaking in an installation of Quake, and we all did it, and then we all played deathmatch. Oh my god, there's that cat again. It doesn't have a tail. You're right. It looks like a little like a cat goat. That's really weird. It's just got like a little nubbin.
He does have a nubbin.
Weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah,
maybe it's a bobcat secretly.
So here's an interesting fact: Quake was the game. This is going to sound this is going to fucking super age me, but Quake was the game that I started playing off purely on keyboard. And Quake was my transition game from controlling an FPS game entirely on keyboard to then using a mouse and keyboard.
I see.
Am I right in thinking there was something where there's one version of the game where you had to use console commands and type in like mlook, and that would let you use your mouse to actually look around?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because Quake, obviously id Software were the developers of Doom, which was a very important seminal first-person shooter, but anyone who's seen the old-school Dooms, which we've seen a lot of lately thanks to the rebooted franchise, like it's all on one plane, and you kind of allow the Doom guy to kind of like
it's hit scan.
Exactly. But Quake was where they really kind of started to identify where first-person shooters would go in the future, while maintaining that sort of like fast-paced, sort of deathmatch-inspired gameplay.
Yeah, and I think it was exactly that. I think it was the deathmatch that kind of pushed forward the idea of mouse aim. But so I was there, ground zero, fellas. In fact, it was me who. You've got me to thank for mouse and keyboard, so you're welcome. What can I say?
There we go.
Except you're welcome.
I had the N64 version of Quake. They brought out an N64 version. I think it was the late 90s, and my neighbour brought it round to play, and then it was such a bad version of the game that I think he just left it. So I remember growing up on that. It must have been like 98 maybe. It must have been I was pretty young at the time, but that was fun. Yeah, good game.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everyone's got their own sort of like childhood Quake stories. Mine is actually, I completely missed out on Quake and Quake 2, but I bought Quake 3 on the
Whoa,
PlayStation 2
what a
at a
game.
time where I would just get my dad to buy me games because the cover looked cool or the name looked cool or because I liked violence. And all I remember was running around in death matches that were in empty arenas, not really understanding what the game was, even if it even had a campaign. Like
No,
from
it didn't.
memory,
It
I don't
didn't have a
even know if
campaign.
Quake 3. There you go. So like I was a kid just running around empty multiplayer matches, probably didn't even know how to put bots in the game, but I did like that one of the characters was an eyeball. So that box was ticked.
Nice.
It's amazing as a kid.
But look,
so I should say it's amazing as a kid how much you can just do on your own in these games. I remember playing Michael Owen's Soccer 2001 and playing full 90-minute games against no opposition and just going round like so it'd be you versus another human player I'd set up as. So they didn't do anything. They didn't even move. They just had the keeper. And playing a full 90-minute game real time and winning like 250-0 and being like, that's a good use of my time. Mental.
Do you know what's funny? Is I can believe it because I've seen my brothers do it. My younger brothers. He plays FIFA on the easiest difficulty, which is beginner. But he can play the game. Like, he's competitive against me. And so he'll win like 30-40-0. And you ask him, like, why are you doing that? And he goes, I don't know.
Just like scoring
Dunno.
goals.
Just wanted to batter
doesn't have an answer.
Bradford City. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And who could blame him, right? Fuck. But no, nothing of disrespect to Bradford. I'm sure it's a lovely place. I've been there. Okay. But look, the reason we're bringing up and reminiscing about Quake is because at the moment, as of today, in fact, an all-digital version of the annual QuakeCon event is underway. And I think the somewhat ironic thing is that in recent years, one of the things that hasn't really featured in QuakeCon very much is Quake, because you need to make new games for there to be games to talk about. So QuakeCon has been dominated by titles like Doom and Wolfenstein and so on and so forth in recent years. But we can confirm, as of a few hours before we started recording, that Quake is making something of a comeback. So essentially, to celebrate the series' birthday, Quake is being remastered by Night Dive Studios. I wrote down the name of the studio, but I didn't look up what they'd made before, so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I know what their logo
It's
looks
anyone's
like.
guess. There you go. And is it a cool logo?
It is. It's actually a fucking cool logo. It's like a tentacle coming out of one of those old school, like Big Daddy hat, like helmets. You know what I mean? The diving
Yes,
diving
yeah, I
bells,
do know
or
what you
whatever
mean,
they're
actually.
fucking called.
Yeah.
Oh, it is
And
cool.
hey,
I've just
if you've got
looked
a
it
cool
up.
logo-
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah.
Martin, if you had to sort of like guesstimate based on purely the aesthetic of that logo, whether or not this is a good remaster, thoughts?
I mean, I'm currently looking at like a pretty low res image of it. But I'm thinking it's pretty
Okay.
it looks kind of grungy indie, so I'm going to say it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
One for the fans.
I
One
might
for
be
one for the OG fans.
Oh, I like that. Okay, I mean, who better to do it for than them? And if you are one of those OG fans who will be looking to pick up this newly renovated version of Quake, you can look forward to things such as the obvious visual improvements and, 4K and high frame rates and nice textures, online and local multiplayer, if you want to do a bit of split screen action, and a variety of additional content. And on the note of that additional content, it of course includes the original 2 expansions that came out after Quake was originally released, and also, get this, 2 expansions created by Wolfenstein developer Machine Games.
Yeah.
Lots of people were wondering when they saw the QuakeCon schedule why Machine Games were there at the Quake portion of the talk. And from what I gather, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, you're probably a bit more in the Quake know than me, one of these expansions is all new. So Machine Games have actually created an entirely new expansion for the original Quake that will be packed in with this remaster.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Can I be like real with you guys for a second? Can I cut my heart open and flay it?
Make it raw.
Do it, man. Shed your skin.
Well, for the 25th anniversary, I'm a little bit disappointed that they've gone the remaster route.
Right.
I think like a reboot or a remake would have been a lot better. And I think I think the world kind of like needs it. Sounds a bit stupid, but like I think the world is better off for good Quake games. There haven't been many, to be fair. Like
True.
maybe 50% of the Quake games would be good. But yeah, it's just kind of like it's just a missed opportunity, I feel. And so this is cool, but was it like maybe 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. NVIDIA worked with id Software to release Quake 2 RTX, which was effectively Quake 2 like remastered. I've got it came in a CD. They gave it to me. I've got it here at home. It's quality, but it's like, come on, fellas! Like you did Quake 2 years ago. Cool. You've done Quake 1 now, and yes, they're available in Games Pass. Quake 1, 2, and 3. That's cool. That's really nice. But as like a big kind of fucking milestone, like a quarter of a fucking century, fellas. Like, come on, like just do the franchise some fucking justice, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see the reboots of like of Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein, and you're like, these are of course of the same ilk because they come from the same developers originally, and you're like, well, something at least along those lines would be just amazing and really tap into that obviously huge fan base that's there. If they have QuakeCon and they're including bits and pieces from these other games instead of Quake, it's like, man, how massive would that be if they were to create something new and original to mark 25 years? But it will come. I think it will come. It will come at some point. It will do. It's too big a franchise to let just
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but it's just a missed opportunity, I think, and it's a bit sad.
I think calling it a missed opportunity, I think that's like fair enough. I get where you're coming from totally. Although there is also like a very selfish part of me, and Martin, I don't know if you can kind of like relate to this as someone who I know has played these games as well. When they announced that Machine Games would be on the Quake panel and sort of rumblings started to emerge about some kind of Quake content, there was a part of me that panicked because I was thinking to myself, there's no way Machine Games can reboot Quake, can make the Indiana Jones game that they're scheduled to make, and yet still have time for an actual proper Wolfenstein 3.
Yeah, man.
But of course,
I love the rebooted Wolfenstein series. I love it. Yeah.
Bro, you and me both. But I guess, obviously, they've still got a task on their hands making that and Indie at the same time, but I suppose it makes it slightly more feasible. Martin, we might actually be able to kill Hitler.
Yes.
Can you believe it?
I know. It's always what I've always wanted. Especially from a Wolfenstein game. But it's just the ridiculousness of it being like historical World War II. And then it's like, oh yeah, and spoilers, but yeah, you're going to have your head sewn back on. It's like, yeah, let's just mash up those two things and roll with it. I love
it. I still maintain that, if you wanted to sort of like boil a game's story synopsis down to like the key components, like the plot beats, that Wolfenstein the New Colossus has, like, in terms of like pound for pound batshit craziness,
it's ridiculous.
Maybe like the best story. Like, just some of there are things that you can say from that story. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, but like Martin, like, and Chris, you'll know as well. But like, if I just say like the audition,
like I think you've spoiled it on the.
Oh, I probably have before because I fucking jizz over it every time. But the idea that like, the fact that they thought of that up, the fact that you're there in the context you're there for, the fact that it's on the planet it's on, which even that can kind of give you a hint about just how outlandish it is. Yeah. Anyway, boys, before we move on from QuakeCon and all things sort of Bethesda that are going to be rumbling on for the next couple of days, there was one more piece of news that just snuck in before we started recording, because as I said, QuakeCon is ongoing. And brace yourself, Chris, because I know you're a huge fan of the video game Morrowind.
Right? Yeah?
In fact, some would say, Martin, I don't know if this is news to you, but some would say Morrowind is one of Chris's favorite games of all time. Chris, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it on Game Pass. Hell yeah, bro.
Well, there you go.
Are you telling me?
I'm saying you might want to keep hold of that Game Pass subscription, my friend, because not just from the developers of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, but also in the exact same series, later on, they made an improved game called The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, and it's coming out again on the next generation consoles.
Coming out again? That's what I've always wanted. Another version of Skyrim. I would take it on a third generation.
Yeah, Yes, Martin, your Christmas dreams have all come true. I'm going to get you Skyrim for Christmas now that I know that
gee,
that is actually
thank you, Jamie.
all you've ever wanted.
Oh my goodness,
You're
no,
welcome.
yeah. I mean,
Why have they done this?
I mean, I don't know. I think if we dig a little bit more into what they're actually doing, it maybe gives you something of an idea. So the way this is all going
Hold
down
on, can
is
I just say, fuck you, because you got my hopes up there with the a Morrowind kind of remake, which is just really what I'd love, you know.
Well, you're not going to get it.
Well,
you'll never get this.
I think we're still
fine.
at the stage.
Fine.
Yeah, it's exactly in true Borat fashion. You will never get this, Chris. I think we're still at the point, as depressing as it is, where if you looked at the graphs that they're drawing over at somewhere at Bethesda, I think this still makes them more money than anything Morrowind related probably makes them.
True.
But to try and answer beyond, Martin, I saw you kind of gesturing to the folks at home. the real reason behind...
I was doing dollar signs for audio listeners, yeah.
Yeah, but to kind of outline what's actually going on here. So, obviously, the meme was that Skyrim's been out on everything, and it has been out on everything, but one of the last sort of releases it saw was the Skyrim Special Edition that came out on consoles like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and I think like the PC version kind of got updated to it if you own it, blah, 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 blah. They're essentially renovated, like they're releasing a version of the game called Skyrim Anniversary Edition, but it's not like a whole new strand of the game. It kind of replaces Skyrim Special Edition, but it also now means that they can release it on the new consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's kind of like, you know how Ghost of Tsushima is getting the Director's Cut? And the Director's Cut is on PS4 and PS5, and it's Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is replacing Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
So even as a PS4 owner, if you go and try and play that game, you'll just get the Director's Cut because that's what the game is now. This is one of those situations, but obviously they will be selling this game to PS5 owners and Series X and S owners. And as you both gestured earlier, there's a pretty obvious reason for it.
So do we know yet what the changes are going to be? Are there going to be any changes to the game? Because the Director's Cut, if I'm not mistaken, there are some additions to that, aren't there, with Ghost of Tsushima? Do we know if there's anything new with Skyrim that will get people excited, or is it just going to be like...
Can you change the dialogue to be Japanese?
Oh, these are great questions, and I'm currently finding out the answers to them by looking at Twitter on my mobile phone.
Hey.
Because it looks like they're currently talking about... Sorry, Martin, you go ahead. I'm going to keep researching.
I was going to say, everyone that would have wanted to have played Skyrim by now has surely at least had a go, haven't they? 10 years. If there's new content, fair enough. But otherwise, I'm not sure how many people can pick it up now.
Even without new content, like... Skyrim is on every platform because it is a very good game. So, you know,
true that.
If you want to play it on the next console, it's like, hey, you could buy it if you want. It's there for you. Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know, why not?
So what I'm reading is that you'll receive access to, and excuse me if this is things we already knew, but it's all like fucking double Dutch to me at this stage, Skyrim stuff.
Yeah.
You'll receive access to 3 free pieces of Creation Club content, fishing, survival mode, and even new quests with Saints and Seducers. Owners will get the PlayStation 5 and Series X and S versions for free. Game Pass subscribers obviously get it all. This is coming out on November 11th, by the way, which is going to be the full-on 10-year anniversary of Skyrim, which is kind of nice, you know, to recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, they could have waited another 15 years and just released the fucking mediocre, like, remake. Remaster.
All they're saying is things like full game plus all 3 expansions and over 500 pieces of unique content from Creation Club, including pre-existing and new quests, dungeons, bosses, weapon spells, and more. But nothing, like, to kind of get back to what you were talking about, Martin. Nothing that sounds like haptic, feedback or the PlayStation 5. I don't think they're going all in on.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's just going to be
new quests and dungeons. That sounds pretty exciting. That'll be up a lot of people's street, won't it? If you're a big Skyrim fan, you've done most of the it's a big game, but new quests sounds interesting to people who are into that. And I mean, graphical upgrades as well, of course.
I think you also, though, touched on a really interesting point, because I'm someone who, this would be my 4th or 5th version of Skyrim, I think. I lose count. But I I haven't finished 100% of that game on any one platform. So like new dungeons isn't even really a selling point for me. Take a few dungeons out and I'd maybe be more likely to play, because I'm like, oh, that sounds attainable.
You know what they need to do? They need to have cross save and cross progression stuff on Skyrim. That would make the difference, I think. That would definitely make the difference. Because why would I pick up Skyrim on another platform? Like, say, I've got it on Steam. Obviously, when it came out, I bought it. If I wanted to play and I wanted to continue on my character and my quest and whatever it is, because you're right, Jamie, I haven't finished it. Like, let's take the Switch version, for example. It's not the best way to play the game, but maybe I want to play it portable. You know, where's the cross progression? Like, just give me the cross save. You know?
Yeah. I suppose the portable version of Skyrim for you, Chris, becomes the Steam Deck, right?
Man, I've been so tempted lately, but I got to get my ducks in a row. Like, you know, duck number 1, get money. Duck number 2, get a PlayStation 5. Duck number 3, you know, maybe a few blowjobs here and there. Duck number 4, buy the duck, by the way. Duck number 4, maybe think about a Steam Deck.
Okay.
Imagine, have you seen the teeth inside of a duck's mouth? It's like horrendous. It's
Should I look this
horrendous.
up?
Look it up and then imagine getting a blowy from a duck.
Oh my
See,
God.
the way you went through that was very much like monetary. It was like, first get the money, first then pay for a PS5, then pay for a Steam Deck. Then you're like, then pay for the. Oh wait.
How do you think
you're going to be paying
do it, Martin?
Yeah, man, you got to give them the cash, don't you, up front.
Nothing in this world is for free, rough dog. So you know, just saying.
Very
Jamie,
true.
have you found a picture of a duck's teeth?
I'm finding a lot of results for the inside of a goose's mouth.
I'm sure it's pretty similar.
Oh yeah, they're pretty sharp.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Have you seen a duck's penis before, Jamie?
I have.
I will Google that now.
I mean,
Google duck's penis, because that will.
Oh, it's
corkscrew.
Yeah, it's a corkscrew.
Yeah, it's pretty, and it shoots out pretty damn far as well.
It looks like it's prolapsed.
It does, doesn't it?
Jesus.
Which is fantastic. They're really quite rapey. Ducks are. Yeah, it's pretty horrible to.
They are.
They're not one of those like animals who are like, oh, like when I fuck I die, or when I fuck I can't get out.
No. There's
weird shit like that.
There was a scientific paper written about homosexual necrophilia in mallards. And that was an actual scientific paper that was written, because basically they found out the specific species of mallards just like to bone dead ducks that were dudes. It's like, okay,
wow,
man, what a study!
Trying to get
life's work,
trying to understand it, I guess. Yeah, the Alex Jones story.
I have to
where
come
is
to
he
you with this, because I feel like
where is he this week?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
He just said he was going to the pond with a loaf of bread. He didn't say why.
Yeah, for some reason that loaf of bread had a hole in it.
God,
gobble. Get it while it's soggy.
Oh my God. Sorry, Jonesy.
Oh dear. Martin, you deal with crazy stories and crazy people and kooky shit week in, week out with what you have to record.
Sometimes.
If I had to ask you the over-under, have more or less than 1 million, let's say, human males masturbated over the prospect of fucking a duck? More or less than a mil?
Oh, in the history, are we talking the history of humanity here?
No, let's say that are alive today. So out of the however many billion.
A million? That's like
men alive today masturbated over.
I mean, what's the total global population, right? Like
8 billion. Was 8 billion? 8.5 billion, something like that. Maybe more. Maybe 9 billion.
7.8.
I'm overestimating. 7.8. So
as of January 2021.
Yeah, China slowed right down. They were a runaway train for a while there.
They were. So 1,000th of the population would be a billion, right? So if there's, so if you're talking about a million, do you reckon 1 million people? It would have to be 1,000th of the population to be a billion, because it's a million times 1,000 is a billion, right?
I'll tell you what. I'm going to open up percentagecalculator.net.
So it'd be like 0.003, something like that. It sounds like quite a high percentage of people. So I'm going to say no.
So you're shooting it down.
I'm going to say no, but you know, there's some weird kinks out there, man. Some weird kinks. So you never know.
There are indeed some weird kinks. Yeah, God, I'm not even sure I'm going to indulge the tangent that just popped into my head, but yes, let's leave it at that. There are some weird kinks out there. Full stop. Chris, you're deep in research.
Yeah.
Mode.
What percentage are we looking at? We could just say no.
Yeah, Chris has just Googled how many men.
It's okay. So 1 million, a percentage of 7.8 billion, is apparently 0.12%.
Okay, and that's actually, we only want half the population because we're talking about men.
Oh, yeah.
So it'd be 0.24%, which, going back to what you said, you're right, Martin, that sounds way too high. 0.24%.
No, it'd be less. It would be 0.06, no? If you're dividing 0.12 by 2.
No, because it's
you'd be halving the
same
population
number of people, but it's halving the population and keeping the number of people.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it'd be double, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 0.24% sounds way too high.
Yeah, I'm not sure the difference between men and women really changes our outlook on whether 1 million people have masturbated over a duck. But yes, I'm going to say unlikely, but there's always a chance.
I'm more forgiving. I'm more forgiving when it comes to women because everyone knows they think about weird stuff anyway.
They're just shouting right out there, so.
Everyone.
Yeah,
knows.
I was listening to something the other day, and this guy said that all women secretly want to get eaten out by their dogs. I don't know if it's true, but you can never be too careful.
Do you know how you can find out? Do you know how you can find out genuinely? Stay over the night at their house. When they're asleep, go look in the pantry. If there are 2 jars of peanut butter, you got yourself a dog lover.
There you go. One last bit of algebra, bit of statistics before we leave. SuperShow YouTube channel currently sitting on a healthy 130,000 views total. 130,000 times 0.24. That's not how that works.
I don't understand what you're trying to do.
No, it would be this. It would be 0.24 times. No. 0.02. 0.024.
Are you trying to work out the ducks in relation to how many of the Super Show followers?
Basically, I think what I'm getting at is I think there's a possibility that over 3,000 fans of the Super Show have thought about having sex with a duck.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right, considering the caliber of your audience.
I have to and I have to legally say that one person who is definitely not amongst that list is the person who wrote this comment of the week that I'm about to read to you. That person, who has absolutely nothing to do with any of the conversation we just had, I can't stress that enough. He's a completely innocent bystander in all of our bullshit, is our good friend Adam Nichols. Again,
hell yeah.
Completely put a full stop, like a mental block where we just were. We've moved on. We're in a new section of the podcast now. Keep up. Don't fall behind. Adam Nichols, this is what you said. You said, if you guys stop podcasting at 99 or 100, for anyone that missed it, last week we were talking about sort of ending on a big date because it would be kind of funny, that would really bum me out. It was bad enough when ATG was cancelled, RIP, but having to say goodbye to you guys on the Super Show podcast would just be too much. It's too soon. Too damn soon to even joke about. Wow. So even joking off limits.
So Jonesy was like, I never miss a podcast, guys. I've listened to them all.
Oh, what a fan.
Jonesy said last week, didn't he? He was like, if that happened, I'd have to make one of my own for the 100th episode, didn't he? And so that's pretty what he's doing now. He's pre-recording the 100th episode just in case.
Exactly. Just a one-man army.
Yeah. Oh God, that'd be so funny. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is a weird thing to think of, but like, nothing in this world is infinite, right?
You're planting seeds in people's minds here, man. Re-releasing Skyrim, that's really infinite. Keep on re-releasing it.
Martin's got a good point. Yeah, if Skyrim can go 10 years, why can't we?
Yeah, a Super Show Anniversary Edition. I don't know, fellas. After the discussion we just had, I don't think we've got many more episodes coming.
It's possible. It's possible.
But no,
there is that horrible.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's that horrible thing, isn't there? That like, no matter how much you're enjoying something or love doing something, like there will be a last time you do any one thing or see any one person. Because I was listening to a song the other day, and it was actually a song created and performed by a Twitch streamer, I think she is, or a YouTuber, I'm not sure. But it was one of those songs, really catchy, upbeat style with sort of very heavy lyrics. And it was about her, I think, going for coffee with her boyfriend and kind of having that thought every time they go, like, hey, what if this is the last time, for whatever reason, we ever go for coffee? Because there will be a last time, and you never know when it's going to be. Kind of a depressing thought.
Yeah, there's a few things like that. There was one on Reddit where someone was like, I think all the time about, the day in which I'm going to die, and the anniversary of my death could be any day. It's like, okay, I need to.
That's
I
crazy.
think I might need to have smoked something before thinking about this too much. But I think they probably had. Yeah.
Fair.
Today could be the
again,
anniversary of your death in 15 to 25 years' time.
Yeah. Lord knows that if I wanted to die in any year, I would die in the year of the 10th anniversary of Skyrim and the 25th anniversary of Quake, so that our anniversaries could be in sync for all of eternity. But the good news is that the Super Show isn't going anywhere. We're going to continue on this rocky road that we're currently on for the foreseeable future, which I guess is a roundabout way of saying for as long as we can manage. But one of the things that really helps us manage
at least 99.
is the support. Well, at least 99. Again, because it would be very funny just to stop at 99 for no arbitrary reason.
Just go 99,
But,
then 101.
Again, that's even better.
Yeah.
We'll start back at 1
episode
again.
100 just in.
I like it.
Do you know we talked about doing like a season 2 or a year 2 episode 1 when we got to 52.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I'm
was
kind
it
of glad
52?
we didn't.
Or was it? Oh, it was 52 because it was a year.
I'm glad we didn't because I like the big numbers.
I also like the big numbers. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah. Well, one of the ways though that you can make sure we at least reach 99, so we can make sure that gag and joke episode actually happens, is by continuing to show your support as you have done so lovingly already over on Patreon. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/SuperShow. Tough one to do if you're a lisp. I don't have an excuse.
Super
Sean
Super
Connery,
Show.
Super Show.
Super Show. Exactly, the Sean Connery show. Why didn't we just call it that?
We
Fucking
should
hell.
have, actually. I think it's
Sean
maybe because he's
Connery
alive. 'Cause as soon as he kicks the bucket, we'll change our name.
Wait, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead,
Isn't he?
mate. He's dead.
He's
Isn't
not
he?
dead. No way.
No, Roger.
I swear Sean Connery died.
No ways.
Yeah, he did
Roger
die.
Moore
Sean
died.
Connery died on the
He
31st
died, yeah.
of October 2020.
Yeah, he died pretty
Sean Connery's
recently.
dead.
Sean
Sean Connery's
I'm
dead,
sorry
bro.
to break the news
Sean
to
Connery
you.
died. Sean Connery died almost a year ago. To be fair, it was one of those like a lot was going down
But
in
he's
2020.
he was an Highlander. How can he die?
Yeah, he was in Highlander. He was in The Rock, Chris.
That's not even a bit. Honestly, I thought he was still alive. But it makes sense. He
That,
was
no,
old.
that yeah. And again, it also makes sense that like if ever there were a year to kind of lose track of I feel like a lot's happened in the last couple of years, and there have been a lot of like pretty major celebrity deaths as well.
Was it
Yeah.
like the Oscars this year? Just like fucking half an hour of like in memoriam, because they all just fucking kicked the bucket.
It probably was, because I also have this weird thing in my head of like them snubbing someone and everyone being like, oh, why didn't you include that person? But now I can't remember who it is. And that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down, because I was in the middle of telling you how you could support us. No, it's all good. And like I said, we have a Patreon. That link, if you missed it, it's patreon.com/SuperShow. We have all kinds of tiers that you can sort of join in the fun at, pledge a little bit per month, and you'll get all kinds of rewards. We have a Discord server that you can gain access to. We have Patreon-exclusive content, including Patreon-exclusive podcasts. If you've heard us talk about known murders in the past, that is now a real thing. We've done an episode. It's been edited. It's been uploaded. It is live. That is on, for example, on the $5 tier.
We need to do another one very soon.
Patreon. We do need to.
And you know what else I want to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out here, seeing as we've got a member. I think we need to do a crossover episode with like everyone on Just Interesting and everyone on Super Show.
That'd be great.
Yes.
We'll call it just Super.
Just
Infinity War.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. No, from
the
my own
big
personal
coming
point of view, I'm a $10 Patreon on yours, and it's worth every single penny. Not only because you create extra additional content, in addition to the great stuff you create week in, week out, and you're very rigid in your scheduling, which is fantastic and something that we need to improve upon. But also because you're quality guys, and you deserve the support.
Oh, thank you.
Because you create great stuff.
Did you watch Known Murderer? What was your takeaway?
That's the only thing out of the Super Show, out of anything I haven't seen. That's because I've been insanely busy this week.
You haven't watched it yet?
I haven't watched it yet. It's been on my list.
Do you morally disagree with it? Because you don't like content being made about homicide?
No. I'm all for that. No, more of that, mate. More murders. More murders. Keep the killings.
More murders.
Maybe murders.
I'm being serious about spinning it off to like a real podcast. So I think it's got legs, fellas.
I
think
can't
it'd be
wait.
cool. I think we need to learn how to record like more than one episode every 4 or 5 weeks, and then maybe we can talk about the legs.
Let's get to episode 99. Then we'll slag off the Super Show, all right? And then we'll just go straight for Known Murderer.
Absolutely.
Rebrand
But
is what it's called.
Before we start launching any new podcasts, and before we start rebranding anything, Chris, I have to finish rounding off the little Patreon segment of the podcast.
Fair.
By continuing to thank all the kind people that support us. Martin actually mentioned that he's one of our $10 supporters over on Patreon. That's why you can see his name on screen right now, including his surname, in case you wanted that little piece of information, that nugget. Read it in, maybe write it down, make a mental note of it. It's going to go in a second, as we also give shout-outs to a handful of people. And this week they are Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy. By the way, guys, I've changed my mind. The Mandalorian has the best writing and the Darksaber is the best looking part. I believe that one was actually secretly Jonesy in disguise.
Oh.
Jesper Camdell Nielsen, Jovella Cujo, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pierce, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kill, oh my god, Starfall Kid, excuse me, that's really embarrassing, and Zach Cream.
Legends.
And of course, we have, to join those legends, the head honchos, the big dogs, Shell Shock, a new name this week, shout out to Doppler, thank you very much, my friend. Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Bandersnatch is a game Guerrero, another shot fired at Jonesy in the Patreon section, who would have thought
I feel bad because he can't
Peace
defend
Wad.
himself. He's not here.
Oh no, I love it. We should be getting in the action too. Peaswad and the Dude Abides. Thank you all so much, Martin, and thank you as well. And for anyone wondering, we're not the only Patreon-supported podcast around these parts. If you want to, as I said, check out what Martin does with the Just Interesting Boys, watch their stuff on YouTube, listen to their shit on podcasting platforms, and support them. They also have a Patreon that I'm going to guess is patreon.com/justinteresting.
I believe it is.
Maybe?
I believe it is.
Oh, there you go.
But come on over if you fancy listening, come on over to the YouTube first and have a listen. And then decide.
Yeah. What I like about the Just Interesting show is, besides the content that is just interesting, is that you guys usually end it on a quiz each episode, and you've got like a tally that goes, which I think is quite a nice, unique little kind of aspect that you've got going for you guys.
We do, and we also we sometimes stream it on our Twitch and do it live, and then people can join in live and have their own scores up as well.
Hold on, Martin. Let's not give the Super Show audience any ideas. Yeah. Okay.
Whoa. Yeah. Actually, do you know the reason I like the quiz element of the show is because, and whenever I've been on the Just Interesting podcast before, that's the part I actually look forward to taking part in.
Hell yeah.
Because it's a chance to flex your brain muscles in a way that you don't always get on podcasts. So
especially not this podcast.
No, especially not. See, I don't know if you noticed, Martin, but you've come to the podcast where we talk about whether or not people fuck ducks.
I mean, it's a different take, isn't it? It's a different take on societal matters, and it's it's just it uses a different part of your brain, really, doesn't it? Say your left half, and your right half, and then there's the other bit for fucking ducks. So,
booyah, there you go.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the back lobal cortex.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Abdullah Oblongata.
The Abdullah Oblongata.
Name the movie.
Well said.
Anyone? Come on, don't let me down.
I don't know. Is it something that The Simpsons riffed on?
No. It's a movie. It's a film. It's a live action film. Oh well, The Simpsons probably would riff on it. The Simpsons riff on everything. But it's a guy that looks like. I'll set the scene. It's a guy that looks like Colonel Sanders, and he's giving a lecture, and he says, "The Abdullah Oblongata."
Oh yes, Jurassic Park.
No,
is it?
No.
Jurassic Park 2, Lost World.
No.
Jurassic Park 3.
Jurassic Park 3, the one with the kid.
Do you want to know the one with the kid? Do you want to know which?
Give us a clue. Give us a clue. One more clue.
Yeah, more clues. This is the closest thing we've got to a quiz. We've got
okay. You're right. It is a you
Jurassic
could
World 3.
call it a sports movie.
You could.
Dog Day Afternoon.
No, not
Happy
Dog Day
Gilmore.
Afternoon. Oh,
You could
not,
call it a
not quite
sports
Happy
movie.
Gilmore, but I think you're on the right
Oh, is
track.
it wrong right lines?
Also,
No,
Dodgeball.
the
No,
Nope.
Colonel
Shit.
Sanders.
David Cronenberg's Crash.
no.
Crash Bandicoot.
Damn it. So
No.
it's okay. You could call it a sports movie.
Yes.
Martin was close with Happy Gilmore, so it's probably a comedy.
Yeah.
Like 90s, early noughties, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably, what was it, late 90s, I'd imagine?
The Waterboy?
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I was close.
It's
to
a-
I
Happy
have,
Gilmore.
yeah.
And that was
You
1998.
were very close.
So, and it's down here as comedy / slapstick. But yeah, because obviously he gets a scholarship to like Florida University something. And the one lecturer there is like a Colonel Sanders looking motherfucker.
Can I make a really snobby confession when it comes to Adam Sandler movies?
Yeah.
Is that like I saw some films at the right time to enjoy them. Happy Gilmore being one of them. Another one was Big Daddy.
Yeah, Big Daddy was good.
But there are a lot of Adam Sandler films that I didn't grow up with and didn't see for a long time, and so came back to when my friends who then had nostalgia for them were convinced that they were God's gift, and one of them was The Waterboy, and I've never sat through The Waterboy because I find it intolerable how unfunny and painful it is.
Wow. You see, for me, it's like the holy trinity of the good Adam Sandler movies are like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy.
What about Little Nicky?
Little Nicky was all right. I liked it because the demon had boobs on his head.
That's true. Yeah, boobs on the head are always good. Yeah, like I saw a poll, I can't remember where it was, it might have been on Twitter, where someone asked who was better out of Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey, and Adam Sandler was winning. It made me very depressed.
Oh, see, that's tragic.
But
that's very
that's when you
disappointing.
find out that like Adam Sandler's Netflix deal is worth so much because he every time he releases a movie on Netflix, it's like fucking people go absolutely fucking mad for it.
Jonesy's watched every single one of those movies. Jonesy and his wife love those Adam Sandler Netflix films. That's what he's doing now.
He said it couldn't be because he's doing an Adam Sandler marathon. It feels it's so weird, fellas. Like it feels so cringe to say, but I used to love and I still do adore those like holy trinity of Adam Sandler movies. Even so far to say like 50 First Dates is enjoyable.
I was going to say, 'cause, like, I'm skipping through here and there are films like 50 First Dates and The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
So still by the mid-noughties were like kind of cult, like they were very popular.
Yeah. And like those are decent movies. And then like God knows what fucking happened.
You don't mess with the Zohan happened.
Yeah.
which that movie's got some laughs.
Yeah,
that
I
movie's got
didn't
some
mind
laughs.
it. I didn't mind it. But yeah, anyway,
isn't
games.
Adam Sandler's holy trinity of movies. It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Let's be honest. Holy trinity of Adam Sandler movies. Come on, man.
Yes, buddy.
Yeah.
Totally. Listen, Waterboy is like fucking. So
What would the Jim Carrey holy trinity is even harder.
Mask.
I guess that was the
Ace
thing for
Ventura.
him, wasn't it? That the Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura all came out in the same year. That's the hard
But
thing.
you see, I don't think those are his best comedic roles though. Like Me, Myself, and Irene, I think is like fucking way high up.
Yeah, if you want one with a bit of an edge,
I think
Liar
Liar, his performance in that is really, really good.
Liar was good, yeah.
Liar. Do you know what? It's late. It's like late comedy, pre-crazy Jim Carrey, but I've got a lot of time for Yes Man for some reason.
You know, my first date
But
with
Dick
my
and
wife
Jane?
was watching Yes Man.
Really?
wow.
And the Nando's caught on fire, and so we had to be evacuated from the cinema. Didn't see it for 8 years. Didn't see the rest of that movie for 8 years, and then we watched it. Yeah.
And did you say,
yeah,
wasn't worth it?
It was worth it.
No, yeah,
do you want to see that again? No.
Yeah, yeah. Yes Man was a decent movie, especially because it had Zoe Deschanel, who I've always got a soft/hard spot for.
I see what you mean.
Cheeky.
I don't like her because of 500 Days of Summer, and now she's forevermore a wench in my head.
A wench. That's fair, because that movie does make her a wench.
She stifles him.
I know. Just the guy just got played.
Well, anyway, now we've spent too long reminiscing about sort of 19.
You know what the best thing is because I've always said that, like, hey, if we ever want to talk about movies, just fucking do it, as like a loose kind of thing. And then it was about like 2 weeks ago, Jones is like, guys, I know what we need to do. We need to start talking about movies. And I was like, dude, like, that's always been available to us. We just never fucking do it. And now the episode that he's not here is probably the time we've spoken the most about movies.
Poor Jonesy.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, if we're going to talk about maybe not movies, but at least watching things, maybe we can transition into a bit of a weekly catch-up, get to know what you've been up to recently. Have you watched anything of note, perhaps, in the last week?
It's almost as if you have a podcast document in front of you with stuff that I have done this week.
Who could say?
Who could say? Or you're just paraplegic. No, clairvoyant.
Paraplegic.
Psychic.
I think that they're interchangeable, right?
I think
paraplegic.
So. Anyway, yes,
because you can. I watched it. I never watched the. We had to when I did Spanish at school. We had to watch a film called El Mar Adentro. Or The Sea Inside, starring Javier Bardem, where he breaks his neck and he becomes paralyzed from the waist down.
Damn.
And I was sick on the day we watched the final part of the film, but I presume telekinesis comes into it.
Yeah, and he just gets better, right? That's how these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's how it works. Christopher Reeve, how do you think he became Superman? He could fly because he could telekinesis himself away from the floor.
Very interesting.
If you think about it, everyone with telekinesis can fly, and this is what video games don't
doesn't
consider
that sound like
enough.
a TV show like premise? Like you know, like Monk. Like, oh, he's this brilliant detective, but he's like on the autism spectrum and whatever. It's like, oh yeah, he's paraplegic, but he's clairvoyant. So
Yeah.
he'll solve crimes.
I imagine it has been pitched.
Yeah.
Or
Jonesy's
what about
there
a
pitching it
sitcom?
right now?
Actually, yeah.
Netflix are going to show anything. I mean, they show Adam Sandler films, so
We'll probably get a $50 million deal.
yeah. But
What, Chris and Martin, I need you to both come up with your immediate off-the-cuff names for the series about the clairvoyant paraplegic. Chris, I'm putting you on the pedestal first because you got us into this mess. Martin, he's the guest, so I'm giving him more time to come up with something funny, but hopefully slightly less offensive.
are you?
Clairvoyant
I'm crumbling under the pressure here, Jamie.
You could just say the clairvoyant paraplegic. That's
Nah,
that's
but
what you
I
wanna call it.
feel like there is something there. Like it's kind of like it's tinkling, it's fizzing away, and it's kind of like because you want to be like Miyazaki's Spirited Away or some shit like that. But it's like
I see.
know,
what
I
about
see.
like mind, body, and soul, but the body's crossed out? It's just mind and soul.
Jesus,
That's the best thing I've ever heard. I can see it on a poster now. And it's like, the poster is him. It's like a photo of him from the end of his bed, and he's like looking down because he can't.
no, you know what it
bend his
is?
body.
It's not a him. It's a her. It's Kristen Bell, and it's one of these movies in the Forgetting Sarah Marshall universe.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I see. But he does, of course, he doesn't. It's everyone gets their brain wiped by the Men in Black gun, but he doesn't because he's a clairvoyant. So he remembers Sarah Marshall and he tries to remind everyone about her because he's a clairvoyant, but he's a paraplegic, so he can't walk around and spread the word.
Oh man. Should we get back to on track, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
And-
I have been watching something. I've been meaning to watch Suicide Squad. That is still on my to-do or to-watch list.
Oh,
as
okay.
it were.
So what else did you watch 8 hours of instead of this 1 2-hour movie? Please entertain us.
I watched the show called The White Lotus, which is at least on UK TV. It's just launched. It's weird, fellas. Like it's fucking good, but it's fucking weird. And you know what's even weirder? Is it's what's the guy's name? Is it Mike White?
It is Mike White.
So Mike White, if anyone doesn't know, he is the whitest looking person you've probably ever seen in your life. And I think he didn't he do School of Rock?
He did.
Yeah, there we go. So he's got some pedigree behind him.
He wrote it at least. Richard Linklater obviously directed.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike White wrote, produced, directed White Lotus, and I think he came up with the kind of concept as well. It's basically like a hotel in Hawaii where like all these rich white folk go to, and then there's this whole thing of like rich white people, and then kind of like the people working at the hotel who aren't as rich, but it's fucked up, man. Like it's super fucked up, but like in a really good, intriguing way.
Is it like a mystery? Is it mystery based of like unraveling what's going on there?
Yeah. So I'm not going to spoil anything by saying this because it happens in the first minute, but like when the show starts, it does one of these things where it's like, oh, this is the resolution of the story, and now we're going to go back. So what it is like the guy's leaving from Hawaii, and a body is being put onto the plane to transport it back to Honolulu. Right. And it's like, someone's died. And then it says a week earlier, and it goes to all these different kind of like families and what have you going to this island. And yeah, it's just kind of like, I guess, the destructive nature of what these people do to the lives of the people living on the island. It's very interesting, and it's very well done.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it interesting in like a kind of like a social commentary way, or is it interesting in like, is there spooky shit?
No, there's no spooky shit. There's no
right,
because this is my misconception that I had as well. Because from the trailer, it seemed like there might be some kind of like spooky or supernatural or weird stuff, and there is weird stuff, but not like it's all man-made weird stuff.
Not like dark weird stuff.
Yeah, not dark. Well, yeah, and it's not even like weird stuff. It's just human nature, like real human nature. But you say Hawaii, you say island, and you say weird stuff. Immediately you think of Lost, but it's nowhere near that. It's all like, none of it is like fantasy based. It's all real. Okay, it's just real people at a real hotel, just fucking up their lives. Basically, it's very interesting and it's very well done. And I can't recommend it enough.
You've watched
one thought I want to put to you. Oh, sorry.
Martin, so you watched the whole series, eight episodes.
Yeah, 8 episodes, each episode about 56 minutes each.
Precise.
The one thing that I'm wondering, Chris, and because I was basically, the reason I knew about this and the reason I knew it was Mike White is because I was on Twitter midweek, and it wasn't something, when you have these articles that pop up, and it's not because they're necessarily trending, it's almost like because they're promoted or Twitter thinks you're interested in them. And the headline was just something like, Mike White understands and apologizes for the finale of he, like, basically the inclination of like, we know Mike White gets it when it comes to your thoughts about the finale.
Yeah.
Does that register?
Yeah. Well, the finale was very good, and I think the criticism is less on kind of like how satisfying the ending is, and more a case of like what happens in the ending and what the implications are.
Right.
Not saying that it leads into a second season. In fact, if anything, it kind of almost doesn't lead into a second season. And I don't think they should have a second season. I think as its own piece of work, I think it stands on its own. But the reason you probably saw it is because the same reason that I saw it was probably because, much like we see in the gaming world, is embargoes drop and reviews go out.
Oh,
and
I see.
All of a sudden, you catch that barrage, depending on which kind of like how you've crafted your Twitter experience, as it were.
Yeah, totally. Also, I might be wrong, but I think the same article said that HBO had renewed it, but it would be basically like a different resort and different people, like completely different stories, but like some element of it would still be, like almost like, I forget what it's called when they do
anthology.
Anthology, like True Detective.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it doesn't go the True Detective way, because True Detective 1 was quality.
True Detective, like the only thing they had to take from True Detective season 1 onwards was like, okay, it's gonna be a detective and
it's gonna be true.
And it's gonna be true, and he's gonna talk in riddles. And what does the universe mean when the universe doesn't mean anything? And if you do anything in the universe, then the universe will do this, and that guy murdered him.
I will say of True Detective 1, I fucking loved it, and it maybe had the best mid-season like cliffhanger shot that I've ever seen in my life.
I know what shot you're talking about, and I love it.
It's fucking mental.
I can't remember because I was properly drugged up when I watched that.
shit.
I was
Right,
in
yeah.
hospital.
shit.
I watched it in hospital, so I was properly
Oh my God,
drugged
yeah.
up, and I was watching it, and I need to watch it again because I can't remember half of it. But
It's
yeah,
I
quality,
mean, it's
quality.
it's
I remember
fucking
it being
old
good.
now, so I'll just say it. It was they've got a suspect, and they kind of like go to his like the homestead, whatever it is, like the area,
His
and
lair, yeah.
yeah, his lair, and the whole thing is like you don't think anyone's going to be there, but the voiceover is like, oh, sometimes monsters and this, that, the other, and then a very slow motion shot of a dude in his underwear wearing a gas mask, and I think he was holding a gun.
Yes.
He's just kind of slowly walking
Yeah.
across the fucking field, and that's how it fucking ended mid-season. It was like, oh my God, it was good.
Yeah. That's good stuff. That was good stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I've watched. So funnily enough, like, yes, okay, I binged it because I watched it with my wife. Now, my wife's not interested in watching Suicide Squad, so that's why I haven't watched it. I just need to find the time. But yeah, other than that, fellas, surprisingly enough, not only did I absolutely smash out White Lotus, but I did manage to play some games. Unusual for me, I know.
Good.
So let's put it this way, like on the last week, okay, from the time that you're listening to this potentially, which is on the Friday that it comes out, exactly a week ago, we had almost a mini ATG reunion over on Twitch TV/Hot Panic, because myself, Jamie, you were there, Jonesy was there, the last time anybody ever saw him, and Steph, we all joined in together to play some Back 4 Blood. I'm not going to go into the game because we enjoyed it. We spoke about it last week, but it was, what I will speak about is fucking playing games with you fellas, all four of you in a full stack on Back 4 Blood was just like old times, and I fucking loved it, man. It's so good.
I am pretty cool.
Well, I mean, you were the weakest link, but yeah.
I haven't seen much of Back 4 Blood, so what's the kind of the premise of the game
Well,
itself?
I'll tell you what, Martin. If you go to twitch.tv/Hot Panic, at least for another week, the VOD will still be up there.
I will do that
that's
then.
shameless.
I will do that and
That was
save
shameless.
everybody's time.
Martin, imagine a game of Left 4 Dead and a game of Solitaire fucked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's
Literally.
I got that from last week's as well. You were mentioning Left 4 Dead, but with better shooting mechanics and stuff as well. And that actually feels
Yeah,
good, right?
and-
yeah.
Yeah, and like almost like a loot system as well with the guns, like different tiers and everything and upgrades. It's just a fun time, but I would imagine it's only a fun time if you're playing with your friends. If you're just playing with like randoms in a lobby, like bullshit, who cares? But yeah, it's good. But I mean, we've spoken about Back 4 Blood. What I really want to talk about is the mini ATG reunion. It's just got me pining for the days, pining for the fjords. Funnily enough, so when we play online like that, we obviously hit up Discord. And the last time that we had a Discord set up like that was 8 months prior, which is like
Scary thought,
which is
right?
shocking.
Wow.
It's absolutely shocking. Like, what has happened to the world that like that happens? We've all got internet connections. We've all got evenings where we play games, and that was how we managed to synchronize.
Yeah.
It's tough. It is tough. Like if
yeah.
I think about it, we're out of lockdown, and I haven't seen you in the flesh, Martin, for the longest. I saw you on my birthday, but that was the last time. And prior to that, it was like ages ago. And Jamie, like, saw you on my birthday.
God, that was only a month ago. How crazy is that?
But it feels like a life.
That has flown
It feels
by.
like a life ago. And prior to that, it was when we went to Jonesy's for a barbecue. And then, like, prior to that, we hadn't seen each other since lockdown started. Like,
Right.
I don't know. The world's in a weird, fucked up place, and I just wanted to say that.
Hadn't noticed.
Yeah. But yeah, other things that I played, Dota 2, surprise, surprise, because they dropped a new patch, 7.30, which is good because this is the patch that they're going to be playing the international championship with. Changed a whole bunch of stuff, but what's interesting and sad at the same time, they've just finished the battle pass. So when they launched this battle pass, I bought it, and I was like, cool, I'm going to buy this battle pass, and then I'm going to play through the game, blah, blah, blah. I bought the battle pass, and I didn't play Dota then. I just went in, bought the battle pass, and left, planning to pick it up again. I did not play a single game for the entirety of that fucking battle pass. And it expired.
Wow.
Then they dropped the patch the next day, and then I found time to play. Ridiculous.
Gross.
It is gross.
Gross.
I'm disgusted with myself, quite frankly.
How long did that season last? A month and a half? Is it? I don't know what rotation.
Probably somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, Because you know what I've been trying to do? I've been trying to stop myself from playing Dota 2 too much, because it's always that thing of like, I've got time in the evenings, I can play a game. What am I going to play? And it's almost always Dota 2. But then that means that I don't ever get to play any other games or finish games that I have going on. So I've been trying
it's the comfort factor, isn't it? Returning to something that you can play.
Oh yeah,
the stakes are there's the investment isn't necessarily there either. You can just kind of hit if you want to drop in for one game and just play for a little sesh. You can without getting like too tied up in like story and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But I've been as anyone who's been listening, I haven't found much time to play games. But when I have been playing games, I've been jumping around stuff quite a bit. Speaking of jumping around, I played Hades today because it's on Games Pass.
Oh yeah. Was that first time or second?
It was the first time that I played it, yeah. So last week I'd played Curse of the Dead Gods, or Old Gods, or whatever it's called, which is very Hades-esque. And I'd say there's a few things that maybe it does a little bit more interesting than Hades, but only a few. Hades is top quality, like so good. But yeah.
It is a quality game.
Yeah.
A very good game.
And speaking of Hades, you can't speak about it. Yeah, go on.
I'd say it was on lots of people's radar for Game of the Year last year, wasn't it? It really was, and kind of came out of the left field because it wasn't expected to be right up there at the end of the year. Exactly. So yeah, incredible.
Sometimes I love that happens when that happens, just because of how angry it makes Jonesy. An independently developed game that has an art style that's not like extremely realistic, lifelike 3D animated, blah blah blah. He loses.
Yeah, I remember when you were saying like, when we were coming up with that, what our games of the year were, and you were like, I think it might be Hades. It's like, what? No, impossible. It can't be. You can't be serious.
Impossible. It wasn't Hades in the end.
No,
but yes, it was up there. Hades is a good game.
It is very good. It's just the polish on that game is fucking ridiculous. Like everything just feels like as good as you can imagine it, and then better.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. And then, as I was saying, like speaking of Hades, you can't speak about Hades without the Dark Lord himself, Diablo, because Diablo 2 had their early access, and I managed to get in, fellas. I managed to get into that early access because I watched some German Twitch streamer streaming it for 2.5 hours minimum, and I got the key and I loaded it up, and I kind of left it and put it off. Sound familiar? Dota 2 Battle Pass, and by the day that I went to go play it, the early access had ended. So, but it's coming this week. I think open beta this weekend, so I've got it installed. I will play it.
What I'm learning here, Chris, is that you should probably spend some of the 8 hours you have a week for television on these things called video games.
It's a juggling act, Jamie. All right, I've got to spend some time with the missus watching TV or whatever. I've got to take one evening of the week to record the podcast. Sometimes I need to edit the podcast. I've got to try and stream as well. It's juggling. It's
the last time I was in a
serious
relationship. I let her watch like 7 seasons of 24, and I didn't watch a single fucking episode. And we broke up like a few months later. But imagine how much gaming I got done.
140, 150 hours, 168 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I put it all into Destiny 1.
Destiny 1, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no regrets. Okay, a few regrets. I would have liked to have played some of the Battle Pass. And I would have liked to play Diablo, but at least I get to play it this weekend. And
I think...
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, you finish.
Well, I was going to say, Bella, that next week, do you know what's coming out on Games Pass?
Oh, Psychonauts 2.
Where's your Psychonauts playthrough, buddy? You said you were going to play it before Psychonauts 2 came out. And you said that you...
I did say that.
You did say that you owed it to me as well, so...
I can tell you now it's not going to happen based on a number of different things going on this side of the camera. There's no fucking way that's happening in the next week. Probably not in the next 2 to 3 weeks at this rate. But I still aim to play Psychonauts 1 before I play Psychonauts 2, and considering I want to play Psychonauts 2, these are things that will still happen.
Fair.
Just not quite on the same timeline. I'll also say, like, on the topic of Diablo 2, I did play some. But I think it would be better suited to maybe sitting down this time next week when you've hopefully had a chance to go hands on yourself, just to kind of compare notes. Because as I kind of hinted to you when we had a chat earlier in the week, my initial thoughts on Diablo 2, it being the first time I've ever played that game in any form, were curious.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, they were curious.
We will definitely
Martin?
talk about it next week. Like that is my not going back on my word, like Jamie, guarantee.
It's your homework that you've got to get done.
Please, I can't take gaming homework because I'll fuck it up. Like,
I'm getting a vision into Jamie's youth. No, miss, don't give me homework.
I'm one of those people that like, it's a 50-50 every time you see me, that I'm either like in complete control of everything that's going on in my life, or I've got this like panic scribbled to-do list somewhere, either on my phone or on my PC or on the palm of my hand, that is just like got the same thing on it 4 times over, and like
don't forget NB 5 alarms. Martin, might I just tell you that this is the same person that gives me blast for spending 8 hours watching White Lotus, whereas I know what's going to happen. He's like, oh, I don't have time to play Psychonauts, and when I speak to him about it next week, he'll be like, yeah, I played about like fucking 5 days of Warzone.
Hey, you know what?
I mean that is a fair point, Jamie. You do like you get into Warzone, don't you? You have sections of Warzone where you play it for a good amount of time and then you back off, don't you?
And then he gets angry at it and he stops playing for a bit.
That is accurate. But also, hang on. When we were doing our catch-ups, Chris, you acknowledged, and in fact, I think Martin, you coined the term. It was like that, like the kind of that familiar game, that warm game. That you know that you didn't start the battle pass for yours. I finished the battle pass for mine. I hate Warzone at the moment, and I finished the battle pass.
That's good. That's good going.
And I played other games.
Nice.
But Martin, you always have you manage to do this thing where you have a good number of kind of like comfort, fallback, sort of relaxed options to go back to, and you know, some of which you and I and all of us three have played in the past together.
Yeah,
but you're also pretty good at keeping on top of not necessarily new releases, but sort of like taking little sort of like parts of the back catalogue that you might have missed over the years and tapping into them, right?
Yeah, so I tend to pick games that are of interest to me. So I find that with all the new releases, it's exciting, but you could end up picking something that actually is a bit crap and you spent $70 on it. So what I like to do is to go back and have a look at games which I might have missed that I can pick up for a good deal, because as you say, being a frugal gamer, I like doing that. And
a frugal gamer, I love it.
And just so this week I've had a bit of frustration, actually. I'll get into it. So I started playing Vampire. Do you remember Vampire or Vampire? VAMPYRE
with a Y.
With a Y.
Vampire.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah.
And you know what? I started playing the game and I was like, I like this. And I don't like the gameplay particularly. It's quite repetitive. It's not that. It's a bit clunky. The story. Do I like the story? Well, it's intriguing, but the story's not even that great either. Like it's a bit. You can take it or leave it. The graphics good? No, not really. And I've really noticed that actually over the years, the one thing that I value more probably than anything else is the atmosphere of games. And something about the atmosphere of those cold London streets around the setting of World War One, just after World War One. That atmosphere, the old cobbled streets, the mist in the air, the fact that vampires could be roaming the streets, like that's what is of interest to me. And so I was getting into this game, like the dialogue is like quite repetitive, and it's like, oh, have you seen anything unusual today? And they're like, no, sir, just someone eating a rat. It's like this kind of shit's going on. And so I was really enjoying it. I got to about chapter 3 or chapter 4, and then it kept on crashing. Constantly, constantly kept on crashing.
That sounds like the issue that the game was having in terms of like its stability and its bugginess when it came out. So surprising that they haven't sorted that shit out.
It seems like they haven't. And so, like, stupid things, like if I ran too fast, it would crash. It'd be like, oh no, we can't deal with this. We can't deal with like the frame rate. Frame rate would dip and then crash. And so after about five crashes in a row, I was like, screw this, just deleted it. And so will I go back to it? Maybe not, because of the because of these issues. But I was enjoying it, man. I was enjoying it. And then so I thought, okay, well that's done for a bit. So I'll have a look what else is around. And I know that recently on PS Now, they've released Nier Automata. onto the platform.
Hell yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I've heard good things. Jonesy was like, this is, Jonesy says, this is quite possibly one of my games of the year, as he often does with quite a few different games.
That was Jamie, actually.
Was you, Jamie?
The two J's confused again.
I think so. I liked it. Jonesy picked it up, and I think it was one of those games that he felt a responsibility to buy, played it for an hour, and then never talked about it again.
I fear
Jonesy's El Clasico.
Yeah,
I fear that I may be the same, and the reason is the save structure. The save structure, man. I've played for about 45 minutes. I got to these two crane things that were spinning around. Like one's comes down, one goes to the side, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing.
Oh, you didn't die.
I don't really know what I'm doing. I died. And then it just like fucking went through the credits like in 1 second, took me back to the main start menu. I was like, screw this. So I did it again, died in the same place. So I played an hour and a half of the game, can't fucking save, and no progress made. And even the things like the credits rolling fast just annoyed me. I was like, screw this. So I deleted that one too.
Oh my God.
Well, I like your other perspective.
Yeah, that's a bummer because... Look, I think I'm not going to quite use the word unforgivable, but I totally get where you're coming from. The fact that there is no checkpointing or auto-saving in that sort of prologue, which is essentially what it is, all the way up until that boss, is a bummer. It's a bummer because, as we've demonstrated, it's something that stops people really getting into the meat of the game. I think it's annoying because the more fun and fascinating discussions to be had around Nier Automata happen the deeper someone gets into that game. And it's like, it's writing... Well, actually, no, I'm not going to say that. It's quest design and the kind of the ramp up of the combat and like some of the visual elements of the game. They're the bits that are like a little bit rough around the edges. But it's the kind of the meat of the narrative and some of the character moments and some of the twists that are really where the heart of that game is. But you need to spend the time to get there, and I can't begrudge you, especially coming off the back of Vampire. The idea of games not respecting your time was probably a hot topic.
It's limited at the moment. My time is very limited right now, so I was just like, I'm tired. Screw this. But I was enjoying it, like the different perspectives. So it went, as you run across up the ladder, and then you get to like the top rooftop, and then it takes you to the overhead view, and then you're like your shooting of your little mini gun, like the way in which you fire and the way in which you control it just changes completely depending on the kind of the I don't know, what was it, the isometrics of it all, it adapts to different parts of the gameplay, and I was really enjoying it. So it was such a bummer that it just took me back to the start. I was like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this again. So I went back to The Witcher 3, sturdy, solid Witcher 3. Few quests on that, getting into it. Yeah, I'm enjoying The Witcher 3. It's a game that people rave about.
How far are you in total now?
Not far. Couple of chapters.
Okay.
Long way to go.
Interesting. Yeah. I always think about The Witcher because I went back to it last year during lockdown and didn't get particularly far through it, but always wanted to. And then bought it on Switch, and that didn't really work out because I didn't particularly like that port. But I still think about that game. Still think about that.
Yeah.
Especially in like a post-Cyberpunk world, right?
I'm thinking...
It's shocker. I've never played it.
Yeah, There we go. I'm thinking it's one of those games that I can dive into, do a side quest, or do a little bit of something, and then bail out. It's like I can go back to it. It's a bit of as we say, it's a bit of a comforter. You can go back and play a little bit without having kind of the stress of an online multiplayer game as a comforter, because that's the other side of things. Like Dota 2, you're used to it, but my God, I've seen you play that, man, and it seems like it stresses you out. Likewise with Jamie with Call of Duty and Apex. We've played a few games on that where it's got a little bit heated.
A little bit heated, yeah. Especially when Jamie's like, why didn't you say anything? Why did you were shooting from the left? Why didn't you say anything?
I like to win.
We need better comms.
The key we do need better comms. We always need better comms. And it's because whether I'm playing with either of you two, the third wheel is usually Steph half the time. And Steph is Mr. You found out he's dead 50 metres away from you, but nothing ever happens. Even playing Back for Blood with Steph, which is a co-op game where you're shooting zombies that die in one bullet. Like you just get these. I'm down.
Oh, the amount of times that Steph got downed was ridiculous.
Now, I should clarify. I'm not like taking this opportunity with Steph's not here to defend himself to criticize him as the kind of the area in which our communications fall down. But
yeah, I mean, last time me, you, and Steph played, mate, I was definitely the weakest link in Apex by a long way. So I was I'm down.
We were all rusty. We were all rusty.
I haven't played it in a long time.
Getting back
to be
into
fair.
Apex.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
You got to. Those games are almost like designed that you are gonna suck unless you just sink hours into it, right?
Yeah, it needs to be your primary game, doesn't it, to get any good at it? Yeah, it's
yeah,
true.
because also it's like when you drop in, the only way you're gonna get good is if you drop into the hot zone. But if you drop into a hot zone, you're just gonna die, and then it's like, okay, I got to go through this again, and it's painful. It's painful. And that's something that you can only get better at with practice. And if you're just dipping in and out, you don't really have that amount of time for that practice.
Yeah, and even if you are playing it a lot, I mean, we've spoken about this before, Jamie, is the enjoyment curve, especially of first-person shooters and Battle Royale in particular. It's not very enjoyable at the beginning when you're rubbish. Then you start to get good and you start to improve quickly, and you're like, this is good, man. I'm against people who are still not very particularly good, but I'm getting a lot better because I'm putting in the hours to this. And then you get to like the peak of that curve, and then it gradually starts to descend, and you're like, I'm not improving. I'm getting killed when I shouldn't be, and my enjoyment has started to decline. And I think that's how I feel about most online games. It's like you get to a certain stage where you're pretty good, but you're not going to get any better, and then the enjoyment just gradually descends.
Yeah. It's especially complicated now when you have different friends at different skill levels, and games have skill-based matchmaking, and everyone has their own theory as to how they work and whose lobbies you're getting.
And Chris is always on PC and moving up against keyboard players.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Now we've got crossplay, and now I'm sat there with a controller, like watching someone do a 180 spin in 0.002 of a second, saying, "Well, I wasn't going to win because of the person I play with," and that just seems like an unfair thing. But at the same time, like there's no fair way of doing that. Crossplay, and these are unanswerable questions.
At least we're not on a Switch.
At least we're not on the Switch. There we go. We can say that much. We all have some sense about it.
But you could use motion controls.
Let's
have a little session this week, Chris. You bring
the motion controls. So that kind of sums up.
I've got a feeling that if we
nice.
Okay. In fact, Martin, I know you didn't mention Apex, but I've got a feeling if we did play Apex, and Chris was on a Switch playing crossplay, it would probably end up feeling like we were caught in some kind of loop where we died and everything reset every 12 minutes or so.
Oh, I feel a segue coming.
Maybe.
Does that sound familiar? If it does, it's probably because you might have heard of the hot new indie game, 12 Minutes. Funny that. This is, I mean, that's. I played it this week. I played 12 Minutes.
Nice.
It's out today as a time of recording.
Yes.
It's on pretty much everything, but it's also on Game Pass if you've got that, so you can pick it up essentially for free on PC or Xbox. That's how I played it. I forget the name of the guy who made it, but he's pretty much a one-man team, which is why the game has been around for so long. Or at least he kind of led from the front on the creative side of things. It's been around for years, and now it's finally out. And I guess for anyone that kind of missed it, any of the shows it's been out over the years, it's about a man who returns from work one day, arrives to his apartment where his wife greets him and says that it's a special occasion, and she has made him their favorite dessert. And they sit down and they are enjoying their dessert when there is an unwelcome knock at the door, and a man who is claiming to be a police officer walks in when you open the door, proceeds to arrest you both. I should say none of this is spoilers because this is all in the trailers and stuff like that. And funnily enough, all of this takes place in the first, you guessed it, 12 minutes. Some things transpire, something happens to your character, and you awake to essentially realize that you were caught in a 12-minute time loop that begins when you entered the apartment that night. And
clever.
Yes, and the whole game is set in the apartment. It's like a top-down view. And so, like, from what I understand, you never even leave the apartment. It's only like 4 rooms, so it's just kind of this really fascinating thing. For anyone that wonders how it plays, it's kind of like a point-and-click adventure. where the animations have actually been compared to the animations in The Sims, and I found that to be like weirdly befitting. It's lots of kind of like moving to a certain point and then kind of snapping into a place and doing an animation. It's a little bit janky.
Sims murder mystery.
Yeah. But it is fully point and click in terms of like click on the mug, he walks over, picks it up, go to your inventory, drag the mug over to the sink, and he fills the mug with water.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so on. And go to your inventory, and now there's a mug full of water in your inventory, and click and drag that onto the table. He puts onto the table, and so it is one of those. But obviously, it's surrounding this idea of okay, who's this visitor? What does he want? Why does he want it? Who's keeping secrets and who's telling porcupines? And how can you extract the truths using what at first appeared to be very limited, rooms and items at your disposal. I don't have those answers yet because I've played for about 2 hours, which any mathematicians out there, about 10 loops, más o menos. But it's intriguing so far. I've had some jank, and there are a few points where, like, as you can imagine, like I've butted up against the kind of the extremes of, say, the dialogue system, where might be a specific thing you want to communicate based on something you, the player, have learnt, but there might not be a way for the protagonist to properly articulate what you feel like you've learned, and so that information ends up feeling redundant. And there's a little bit of that classic sort of point-and-click adventure style issue where you maybe get slightly out of sync with your protagonist in terms of where they're at in the story and where you're at in the story, and how do you align those two things. But if nothing else, it's intriguing. I've had a few sort of like reveals, and I will also give a shout out to, there's a lot of trial and error, because as I said, you've got this sort of like kitchen, living room, you've got the bedroom, you've got the bathroom, and that's basically it. And so you're trying weird things with like the few household items you do find. Like, this isn't a spoiler, I'm just going to say it up front because anyone's going to think it. One of the things I did on one of the loops was I just said, fuck it. I walked in, I picked the kitchen knife off the table, and I just stabbed the wife immediately. I just killed her.
You did.
But that's the kind of, it's this interesting thing where you're like, right, like 12-minute loops are short. And this game is all about like acquiring information and like reusing that information to progress further the next time. And it's like, what if she says something on her deathbed that becomes information I can reuse later on? Because full transparency, I still haven't got to the point yet where at the beginning of the loop, I can convince the wife I'm in a time loop. I can't do that yet.
Right, yeah.
I can see the threads where I might be able to convince her if I find certain bits of information, but I haven't got it yet.
After the killing, what did you do for the next 11 and a half minutes?
So the killing doesn't, the time loop starts at the moment you walk through the door on your way home from work. And then there's probably, I don't know the exact, but it's probably about like 7 or 8 minutes until the man arrives. And then when you get to 12 minutes, regardless of whether you die or not, the loop repeats. So again, I don't know if this isn't really a spoiler, but I have had one loop where neither me nor I have had a loop that didn't end from me dying.
Right, yeah. Because the time I had just ran out.
Yeah, I had a loop where like I was still alive and was still sort of piecing some things together. 12 minutes hit, and I got back to the beginning.
See, I'm intrigued.
It's very intriguing. It's very
I want to pick that up. Yeah,
I preloaded it and just gotta find the time, fellas. Too many games, too little time.
Reviews were pretty positive. Like I think GameSpot was a 9, IGN was an 8. But there were also a few people who didn't like it quite so much. I think a lot of it depends on A, whether or not you get stuck, and B, whether or not you like the ending. That's what I've picked up so far. So I guess we'll feedback on that in the coming weeks, or in your case, maybe months.
Well,
and then
it's either months or it's like the next week, right? That's just how I operate. The two
I heard
extremes.
it's like 6 hours long.
I
heard it's like 6 hours long.
It could be years though. Could be years, couldn't it? I mean, how's Sekiro coming along?
Years.
I did say that I would go back to Sekiro now that I have a new monitor and I won't have any audio desync issues. But I will go back to Sekiro as soon as I finish Dark Souls. But I got to get back.
How's Dark Souls coming along?
It's coming along great, thank you.
It's coming. Good.
I beat what's widely regarded as the hardest boss. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
But because I'm streaming it as I'm playing it, and I'm not playing it when I'm not streaming it. It's kind of
Yeah.
Since I've started my job, I haven't really had much time to stream. I think I've only streamed once since taking a hiatus since my birthday. But yeah, hoping to get back to it very soon. Thank you very much.
Watch this space.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, the only other thing I'll quickly mention on the playing front was that a Call of Duty Warzone live event took place today. It was called the Battle of Verdansk, and I won't bore people, or either of you two for that matter, too much with what actually happened, because essentially all it boiled down to was an armoured train goes around the train tracks, and it's a PvE mode where you are in a lobby of 32 players, so 8 teams of 4. And you just shoot the shit out of this train until it all blows up, and it was actually kind of fun.
It sounds it.
But it actually kind of was. I'm not going to lie. And that's not, I think they've done bad events before. I think this was one of their better ones.
Yeah.
But really what this was actually for was that this was the in Warzone reveal of the much anticipated, long awaited Call of Duty Vanguard, which we've known about for months now, but being late August is probably the latest in a cycle we've ever actually officially got information on a Call of Duty title. We now know a little bit more about it. So for anyone that hadn't heard this stuff through leaks or rumors already, it is a World War II set shooter, primarily being developed by Sledgehammer Games. They did Call of Duty World War II and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare in the past. And it is coming out on November 5th, so any fears that they would miss a year or it would be some weird delay, they
no
can
ways,
be immediately put to bed.
Bobby Kotick needs that money.
Exactly. So there was a trailer. We all three have now watched that trailer, so I'll get your thoughts on it a bit. But just to kind of give a bit of a premise or a backdrop to kind of what us three watched in that trailer for anyone that hasn't seen it themselves. As I said, it's World War II, but it seems to be this kind of, from what I have gathered thus far, a split between taking inspiration from real people and real events, but with a bit of a what-if element. And from what I understand, the what-if element comes under the banner of Project Phoenix, which is a fictional operation created by the remaining members of the Nazi Party to find a successor to Hitler. Little did they know that he would actually be born 50 years later, and his name would be Alex Jones. So essentially, what do you do in retaliation? Look, I'm joking.
Oh, which Alex Jones?
Our Jonesy. What I gotta say is, if Jonesy is not invested in the ideas and the principles that the Nazi Party held true to their hearts, but if he was, Jonesy would be a charismatic leader.
He's a charismatic guy. Sure.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
That's the so. If anything, I was really trying to compliment him, Jonesy. If you're listening, I hope you're not. In some respects, now that I've said that, but really, what I was complimenting your leadership abilities and your charisma. You're kind of like Adolf in that you've got the eyes. Like, you just kind of I fall under your gaze, and I would do things that I wouldn't ordinarily do just by looking at you. And I think that was sort of Hitler's trump card as well in some respects. Like, you just get lost in his eyes, and he charms you.
What a charmer!
Honestly, go watch the testimonies live from The Hague. He charmed me.
That's what they said. In my defense, he did charm me.
Yes,
that's the defense.
Charismatic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like it.
You know what? He had the gift of the gab. That's what I've always said about Adolf. So basically, long story short, Project Phoenix are up against it when it comes to replacing the big AH. But it doesn't mean you're not going to try and stop them, and you'll do so in the form of a special forces group made up of 4 individuals from different allied powers. That was kind of the trailer trying to give a snapshot of these kind of different fronts, the Eastern and Western fronts, Pacific and North Africa. Kind of a different soldier from each of them. It seems like each of those characters might be based on sort of a real-life person. Certainly, I know the female Russian sniper. I forget the name of the real-life inspiration, but there was actually some Russian sniper who killed like fucking 300 people or something, and that's a very clear, inspiration for that character. There are some rumors as well that there might be co-op elements, given the sort of like the 4-player tangent that the campaign seems to be going for, but those are unconfirmed. And elsewhere, there's multiplayer coming, there's zombies coming that's being developed by Treyarch again, the Black Ops people, and Warzone is going to get a new map. But really, what we're talking about is I feel like, we've now got our first eyes on another attempt at cracking the World War II nut. Martin, if I start with you, if you wouldn't mind, thoughts on that trailer? Where are you at with World War II games now? Because some people are hot on them, some people are cold.
I'm pretty hot on them. I've always thought of Call of Duty being a World War II franchise historically. I was massively into the original Call of Duties, Call of Duty 1 and 2 on the PC, and yeah, I mean, know that it wasn't that long ago that I was playing even World at War. I was still playing online well after that came out, and really enjoyed that one. So yeah, great game. And then World War II as well. I played through that. So I don't mind it being World War II. I know there is a bit of fatigue, but quite honestly, what better scenarios are there to attack than World War II? Is the perfect setting. You're going to go modern, or you're going to go World War II. Of course, Battlefield 1 was World War One, but it makes sense to do World War II because there are so many different stories to be told and so many different fronts. What I don't like is them repeating the same scenarios. So repeating Stalingrad, repeating D-Day, repeating a lot of the kind of the stuff around the West, and the invasion of France and Operation Market Garden, and these things have been done to death in a lot of games.
Have they done Market Garden? I don't.
They did it
in Garden as a mission,
they did it in Frontline, didn't they? Market Garden.
Medal of Honor.
Yeah. I think they did that. But these things.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing. It's easy to forget, right? Is that if you include Medal of Honor and Brothers in Arms in the mix, then World War II
has been done.
Used to be the only thing people did, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some, some more unique storytelling in there, and maybe some of the battles that haven't been covered so much, as opposed to it being largely the Western Front and then a little bit of Stalingrad. So I'm happy with it. I just hope that it's a slightly different take. But I enjoy the gunplay. I think that often the variety in weapons, I mean, you see the same weapons being brought up again and again, don't you? You've got your Lee Enfields, your Garand rifles, and your KARs and stuff. They're the same weapons over and over again.
All you need is the ping of an M1, baby.
But they feel good, don't they? World War II guns in games. They feel good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's World War II again. People will, go, another one. But I'm okay with that.
Chris, you okay with it?
I'm always okay with it, buddy. I'm a big World War II nut. And like, it's weird because I didn't think that Call of Duty World War II was all that great. Right. And there was me kind of like crying out like, oh, I wish they'd go back to World War II. They go back to World War II. And it's like, they with World War II, they seem to be going a little bit too bombastic with everything, like, especially with that fucking train mission. But there were some cool things there, like the whole liberation of, I don't know if it was Paris, but the liberation of one of those French towns, probably Paris, where you got to kind of like infiltrate as a spy and then lead the kind of the liberation front towards the end of that mission. Just how it evolved and everything. There's definitely a highlight in terms of the COD series as a whole as a mission for me. As long as they do more of that and less of the kind of like bombastic train missions, then I'm totally on board. What I like about it is it does seem to be, whether it's just the trailer kind of just trying to say like, hey, these are a team from the Eastern Front, the Western Front, Pacific, and North Africa. But if there are missions based on that, then that really makes me kind of think of, like Martin said, like World at War, where you were jumping around, even like Call of Duty 2, where you were like going between the two fronts with following different characters. It's going to sound really strange, and maybe it's a little bit reductive, but I would like to see them go a little bit more back to their roots of like the original Call of Duties, rather than say trying to keep that bombastic nature that Call of Duty has evolved into, and just kind of focus on the spectacle and the set pieces less than anything else.
Yeah. Although there was a lot of spectacle in that trailer.
There was. And that's... I did enjoy the trailer. I did. Like, I'm not going to lie. But and I'm hoping that the bombastic... I mean, you've got to have some bombastic stuff. I get it, right? But it's more like the more interpersonal and slower moments of World War II are the missions that I remember the most. Obviously, everybody remembers like storming Omaha Beach, fine. But like the mission in Stalingrad, where it kind of does the whole enemy at the gates thing. I think that was on Call of Duty 2, where you're kind of like, you don't have the gun, you've got the ammunition, and the guy next to you has the gun, and then he dies, and you pick up his rifle, and you become this like sniper. Like that whole storyline was so pitch perfect. It was great. There was another mission where you were in a tank, and like these like tiger tanks were coming after you, and it's like rubble everywhere. I think I don't even remember which game that was, but that was like, and it was just like tank battles. It's fucking amazing. It was so good. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's plenty of scope for a modern World War II shooter where it could just blow us all away. And hopefully this is it.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Be interesting to see if they can really capitalize on that next gen tech as well to kind of push Call of Duty in a new direction. And also just going back to kind of like what they have outlined with the story, like you both mentioned, whether it be Stalingrad or D-Day or whatever, you both mentioned sort of like real life World War II events or battles or locations or like of interest that kind of stand out to you or that we've experienced in other games. Like Martin, for example, like to what extent does the possibility of a what if element where sort of like some kind of like perhaps slightly fictionalized or alternate history versions of World War II are being explored, does that interest you? Or is that one of those situations where actually this war was deep and complex and interesting enough that I don't need this white writer's room at Activision, coming up with their own interpretation of what World War II was?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be made clear, doesn't it, of what's real and what isn't, I think, in the first place, so that, because let's be honest, when we look at Call of Duty, we're thinking the kids are playing this. And from a very responsibility to portray the. I mean, it's a game, isn't it? You're not going to be one bloke shooting 500 people, in a 5-hour campaign. It's just not going to happen. Historical accuracy is important, but at the same time, you're whenever you're entering a Call of Duty game, you're kind of treading a fine line there, regardless. So as long as it's made clear, I think. As long as it's made clear. But the what if stuff, you just look at alternate history YouTube channels, and there's tons of people doing it, and they're really, really popular. So I've no doubt that kind of side of things of what would happen if this had happened will be incredibly popular.
But that also scares me at the same kind of token, because does that then give them carte blanche to say, all of a sudden you get like a fucking Wolfenstein scenario, which is great in a Wolfenstein game, but like, do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden there's like someone who's going to come up to be Hitler's number one, and it's almost like he's going to twirl his moustache and he's going to wear a monocle, and it could go that way. I'm not saying it will, but
yeah, I know. As long as between the next Wolfenstein game, presuming there is one, and I mean, we're not going to get this in Vanguard, but I want the opportunity to at least kill Hitler in one of these games sometime soon. Like again, a game needs to step up to the Oki and be like, you can kill Hitler in that.
Yeah. Oh, you can.
Even if it's
whoa. We've already killed Hitler. Do you remember the game?
Elite.
Sniper
Elite 2, wasn't it? Or 3? One of those.
I think they've squeezed them into
pretty much all of them. We did it on.
Like,
I'm sure it was Sniper Elite 3. And we did it on.
I think it might have even been 4.
Yeah,
as well.
I think you're right.
Maybe you're right. Maybe all of them.
Yeah, we did a let's play on ATG, and
it was like a weird, like separate.
Yeah,
sorry, Chris.
We did it on ATG as a let's play, and the whole thing was we tasked Jonesy with shooting Hitler's nuts off.
Yes,
nice. It was fun game.
I think we succeeded.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, good times, simpler.
I mean,
times.
Jonesy would hide in the bush and throw a grenade in a sniper game, but that's Jonesy.
He's got his own interpretation of the word stealth, and that's fine. That's what the English language is all about: interpretation. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think what's cool is that like, even though this new cycle is coming around a little bit late in the year compared to what we're used to, they're saying a lot of the right things. Yeah. I think we're probably going to see some campaign gameplay sooner rather than later. Obviously, we got Gamescom this time next week at the time of recording, more or less, give or take a day or two.
Yeah.
And they've already teased sort of like some snippets of multiplayer footage coming out soon. Obviously, Zombies is, for those who like it, in safe hands with Treyarch. Yeah. And I think Anti-Cheat and a new map coming to Warzone is kind of the two things that are at the top of the list that Warzone players have been asking for. So, will YouTube...
I think that's probably, for us outside of our bubble, that's probably the biggest headline.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to get some track. Well, I mean, you two have both played more than your fair share of Warzone over the, well, technically over a year now, but I was going to say over the months. A new map, considering that Verdansk 84 wasn't really a new map. and also the promise of Vanguard integration, meaning that some of your favorite World War II weapons will now be in Warzone. That going to get you back in?
Yeah,
like, Martin, I know you were still on and off with it till fairly recently, but
yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to jump in. It's about who's on, who's playing, and if people are still enjoying it. That's the main thing. But definitely a new map. If there was a map that was centered around World War II, World War II in general,
yeah,
but, around that kind of theme,
I believe that's the plan.
That'd be great. I would love that because look, to be frank, like if you look at previous games, there hasn't been anything like that. A lot of the time, it's been quite small sandboxy levels, hasn't it, for multiplayer? And kind of
Has there
nice
ever
to have something
been
a bit more
World War II
expansive
battle royale?
Has there ever been a
Battlefield V or 5? I guess.
Yeah, true. Battlefield 5
Yeah.
had a battle royale, but like Battlefield 5's map never screamed World War II. I don't know.
It didn't really. Wasn't it meant to be set in Greece or something? But I don't think it was.
Although I guess the other thing with Warzone that you need to bear in mind though is that even if the map ends up being World War II inspired, which I believe might be the case, people will still be running around in like clown outfits with purple guns.
It's different
because they integrate everything together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, Battlefield 5. The one thing. Yeah. The one thing I really did like about that game, I mean, the single player was pretty crap in terms of it was trying to tell stories. It was like stories from the front or something. It was called something really cliched, but it was still like really over the top and overly like sentimental. But there was no background to any of the characters really, so it just felt really hollow and not very good.
Yeah.
But what I did like was the fact that they focused on fronts that you didn't necessarily see much of. So they focused on a mission in Norway, which not that many
that was cool.
games have done that.
Was that the one with skiing in it?
Yeah.
Like you're a young girl that's like skiing at the beginning of it.
That's the one, and people were kicking off because it was like there's no women in wars. Yeah, it was that one, wasn't it? And then there was some French African soldiers as well, which was kind of interesting. Like a few different takes there, which was nice. And I'd really like to see that in a Call of Duty game, but just done well.
Well, we will find out whether or not they have managed to live up to that task in just shy of 3 months as we continue to roll into the business end of the year. And another thing that people are looking forward to in the business end of the year, the fall window, as some of our American summers might call it, amongst all the new releases and sequels and hot new titles, is actually an update to an existing game. I'm, of course, talking about the infamous Cyberpunk 2077, which is, get this, going to be celebrating its 1 year anniversary, its birthday, in less than 4 months.
It's mad.
I don't know. Yeah. But before we got to, we still don't know anything about sort of next-gen patches or next-gen versions or anything like that. That's what people are expecting before the end of the year. But in the meantime, patches have continued to come. And this week, we got news on the latest big patch. In fact, the biggest patch to date, in their own words, which was patch 1.3, which is now out, as my understanding, on all platforms. So, for anyone that had lost count, this is the third major patch since the launch last December. There were kind of hot fixes along the way, but this is the third one to get its own number without any smaller numbers after it. And they did a little live stream to kind of go along with it, which I watched, and they made it pretty clear that the focus is still, in the meantime, on bug fixes, and anyone that goes to want to take a look at the patch notes and in their full exhaustive nature will see that they're still dealing with a lot of really kind of minute stuff and quest fixes and things that probably only affected a small handful of people, maybe not a small handful, but a small percentage of people, but clearly still important issues. I think the interesting thing about this patch, though, is that they're starting to get to the point where they can factor additional content into the game and start to maybe work on more quality of life improvements and things like that. In fact, Patrick Mills, a senior quest designer, said, quote, streaming and memory management have reached the point where they can, quote, start trying to deliver those things, referring to kind of bigger, more substantial changes that people in the community and on Reddit and Twitter and so on and so forth have been asking for. We got some hints at what kind of stuff that might look like. So, for example, one long-awaited change that was apparently very complicated to do because of the way the game was structured and built was a fix for the mini-map, which was apparently far too zoomed in when you were driving, especially at high speeds, causing people to miss their turns.
All the time.
They have
all the
found
time.
yeah. They explain that one in some depth, and I'm going to butcher it if I try and explain it, but it was this weird thing where, like, what was the minimap wasn't some separate entity. Like, what was being shown on the minimap was actually one-to-one with what was being loaded into the world, and to show more of the minimap, they had to load in more of the world, and of course, they were already having memory streaming and performance issues, so it was this whole... But these are the things... They're giving this this impression when you listen to it from the horse's mouth, when you listen to these guys talk about their game, that they're almost having to unravel ways in which the game was made to then go back and fix issues and add new things. And speaking of new additions, we've had the first batch of 3 pieces of small DLCs, as they call them, although they do amount to very minor sort of essentially cosmetic additions. There are now 2 new jackets, 1 new vehicle, and a new look, a new outfit for the character Johnny Silverhand, waiting for you in patch 1.3. That's all wrapped up as part of
some of them
DLC,
are tight kind
is
of
it?
points that. Well, it's DLC,
Yeah, exactly.
like how The Witcher 3 had DLC, which was just like a beard for Geralt. So
yeah, and that's a very CD Projekt Red thing. I feel like, to be like, DLCs are these small things that we give you for free. Expansions are the big things that cost money. And for anyone, again, that didn't watch the stream, they did mention the expansion. There was a senior quest designer and a senior level designer both on the stream, and they both said that they were actively working on the first expansion for Cyberpunk. So, you know, for anyone that was wondering, you know, what the future was, it's still not crystal clear. But what is clear to me, for however you received the patch and whatever you wanted the game to be at this point in development, or this post-release, I should say, they're working on it. Fixes are still being made. The patch notes are still exhaustive. The DLCs are minor, but they're starting to roll in. And I hope I am not going to have egg on my face when I say that I kind of take them at face value when they talk about things like memory management or streaming memory and stuff like that. In terms of like things that inhibited their ability to make the kind of changes that people really wanted to see early on. But needless to say, it's going to be a very big 4 months for them when it comes to the next big numbered patch, the remaining DLCs, and those next-gen ports. Chris, I mean, you are a lapsed, shall we say, Cyberpunk 2077 player.
I dip in every now and then.
Because fundamentally, I always got the impression that you were into the fundamentals of what you saw in terms of, you know, premise and sort of like narrative and some elements like that, but obviously didn't have a perfect playing experience, and it didn't keep us hooked in.
Yeah, I think more true for this game than a lot of other titles, but the game just can't help but get in its own way. I haven't tried the new patch yet. I don't believe that it would alleviate that issue that I am finding with it, where it's almost this like juxtaposition of like really cool story, really cool kind of like, it's almost what Martin was saying about Vampire, you know, where it's like the tone and the feeling of that game is so fucking quality. And that's what Cyberpunk is, but it's glitchy for a lot of people. Like I said, I didn't really encounter a lot of glitches. There are some bad designs in there, like the driving. And sure, the minimap is just one small section of it, but the driving is just fucked. The cops are fucked. You know, like I don't know. It's a game that I would really like to see succeed, and I'd really like to see them turn around. Will I go back into it? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I was been planning to get back into it prior to this patch anyway, so this is just kind of cherry on top for me. I guess the question I have for you, Jamie, is this the time that you jump in?
I know I was kind of like waiting for a long time to see what this patch and what the first batch of DLCs would look like. If I'm being totally transparent, I was hoping for a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was hoping for this to be the one where I was like, okay, it's an absolute no-brainer now. What I'm worried is that if I keep on playing this game of just one more patch, then I'll end up never playing it. So my current feeling is that this 1.3 will be the patch that I start playing this game on, yes, in all likelihood. The issue is that at the moment there's just I'm playing sort of one too many games as it is, because interesting things like 12 minutes keep coming out.
And you've got to play Psychonauts.
And also, and I've got to play Psychonauts, and then immediately afterwards Psychonauts 2. Otherwise, I fail at homework and friendship, both of which would be rough things to fail at. But also like just very busy otherwise at the moment as well. Not to make excuses, but so just it's a difficult one. But it's I hope. I don't know, man. Like, have you guys either of you looked at like the release calendar like for the rest of this year?
I've kind of, I don't know. I've kind of stayed away from it for whatever reason.
You mean just in general? The general release calendar?
Like for games, like in general.
The issue is that there's so many games falling off to 2022. I've lost a little bit of hope about anything that's on there actually coming out. You can get skeptical very quickly in a year like this. So yeah, I had a look at the beginning of the year, but we saw that of course God of War fell off. Like fair enough, no one expected it to come out. Horizon was a bit of a shame. I think a lot of people were actually really quite hopeful that would come out in the fall in the holiday season this year. So yeah,
that's why Jonesy's not here. He's actually going for therapy to try and cope with it. So
yeah, the amount of the excuses we made up for Jonesy this week is actually got to be a new record. But what I was going to say was that like. I keep thinking to myself, keep kidding myself, like, okay, I've got a couple more games to complete. Like maybe September is like a solid month for gaming. And I looked at September on the basis of kind of what you were saying, Martin, like presuming loads of stuff had just been delayed. And there's a period in September where, and I've got it up in front of me now, and don't get me wrong, not all of these are games I'm going to buy or play, but like they're all games that I feel like are worth mentioning. The Artful Escape, Life is Strange, True Colors, Lost in Random, NBA 2K22, Tales of Arise, WarioWare Get It Together, Deathloop, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Diablo 2 Resurrected, Sable, Death Stranding Director's Cut, Lost Judgment, the Outer Wilds expansion, and I guess you could throw in their New World, that MMORPG, if you had your eyes on that. Like that's a half decent list of games. It's a
pretty stacked month.
They all come out within like 2 to 3 weeks of each other. Every game I just said there. And that's September. And don't get me wrong, like September's kind of stacked because November, for example, is rubbish. November's kind of, but then like immediately you roll into October and it's like FIFA, Monkey Ball, Far Cry, Metroid, Back 4 Blood, Battlefield, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Empires, Riders Republic, like Call of Duty, Forza, GTA, Pokemon, Dying Light. Like it just keeps
there's still a lot going on.
There is a lot. Yeah, like the next 3 months, there are some huge games. And I'm just like, I really want to play Cyberpunk, but that's a big game to start playing.
It is.
In and amongst new releases.
Yeah, it's a big ask.
Like,
especially
Martin, I know it might...
So especially if there's a potential to be issues there too. You're like, do I really want to go into this? And then find that down the line, 20 hours down the line, there could be an issue, a game-breaking bug.
Right, and like also... It's a game that kind of gets better the longer you don't play it. So
I'm still waiting on No Man's Sky, man. Still waiting. Still not good enough.
Just 5 years later.
So, Martin, from what I gather, based on that you're. I mean, maybe this actually makes sense considering you're playing The Witcher at the moment. But your Cyberpunk time frame for you personally, 2028. You're kind of looking at like a 2028. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
When both expansions are out, it's been patched 52 times, and you're ready to rock and roll.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you'll be buying the anniversary edition.
Exactly. I was going to say, we're taking your anniversary edition.
you actually will.
Quality.
Is this? I mean, this is not to kind of put words in your mouth, but this strikes me as the kind of like the poster boy for the reason that you play games the way you play them in some respects.
Oh, definitely. There are very few games where I'm like, I have to play this straight away. Like there are a few franchises like stuff by Naughty Dog. I'm often like, I'll jump on that. I'll jump on it. So the Last of Us series, anything Uncharted that comes out going forwards, I'll be very much in on. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there are a few franchises like, of course, the like, big franchises like GTA, when the next GTA comes out, or anything by Rockstar, I'll be on that. And then other bits and pieces. Like I really like Annapurna games. I know, Chris, you've joked about them before, but like as experiences, I think there's some of the best little games out there you can play. I love
12 minutes is Annapurna, right?
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe it is.
I will be playing it.
Yeah, to be fair, you did say you'd pick it up. So
yeah, it sounds like my kind of thing. So yeah, there are certain studios and certain franchises that I'm definitely up for when they come out. But a lot of things I'm like, yeah, I'll see how people react to it. And people react to games in all sorts of ways when they first come out, and then cool or grow into them, or as we saw with No Man's Sky, like people absolutely fucking hated it, and then like 2 years later, some people are saying it's like one of their favorite games. So sometimes it's best just to let things settle and see how it goes, if you can avoid spoilers. That is.
You are the smartest gamer of us all, Martin.
Well, not pre-ordering anything ever.
That's the way to. Well, yeah, but I mean, the way you do it is it's super smart, super smart.
Yeah,
maximum satisfaction, zero disappointment.
Well, kind of, but then the conversation is part of the fun of it, right? I know that being able to talk about stuff when it's coming out and being hyped for getting it on release, and then being able to see other people's reviews, and that's a big part of it too.
Hey, Martin, I mean, last week, fucking Jamie and Jonesy were jizzing all over each other's faces, talking about the ending of Disco Elysium. So, and that's like, it's not a new
that's
game.
That's a few years old.
The conversations can still happen if your mates are kind of in on it.
True.
Yeah, I mean that's on my list too. That game has been for a while. Yeah,
I'm waiting for it to come out on the Switch, and then I'll pick it up.
Nice.
That is apparently going to happen at some point, and that one's not mentally long. That's like 20 hours.
Yeah. I feel it's a good train game for me.
Oh yeah, especially because there's very rarely is there any urgency in that game. Like you can put that game down at like almost any point.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Well, I believe with that news story wrapped up, that just about does it for this podcast. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's made it this far and everyone who's been watching or listening. But I also want to say a huge thank you to you, Martin, for joining us.
Oh, it's been
for getting involved, for giving up
absolute pleasure.
So much of your evening.
Yeah, and
it's
into
been,
the early mornings, early hours of the morning. So
it is. We're into the
time,
next
Martin.
day. No trouble at all, guys.
It is now Friday. I mean, I could do it for you, but I thought maybe the polite thing to do would just be to open up the platform to you and just say anything you want to shout out, any way you want to push people, anything you want the folks at home to check out that you've been working on lately, yourself, or even as the Just Interesting crew, or whatever the case may be.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to thank my mum and dad. And so if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Martinteresting. Yeah, get it.
I love it. I love it.
And if you want to have a look at the Just Interesting YouTube, it's just type in Just Interesting on YouTube. And if you want to follow the Just Interesting on Twitter, then it's at Just Interesting YT. So yeah, that's it. That's it really. But yeah, give us a follow, have a chat, hang out. I mean,
highly recommended.
Highly recommended. Yeah, thank you.
Highly recommended.
Definitely.
And
everywhere that
you can usually find me in the Twitch comments for some of these guys too. So check out Chris's Hot Panic on Twitch, and I'll be there as well. So yeah. But thank you so much so much. And and the reciprocation is there too. Please do come back onto Just Interesting. Please.
Hey, you let us know when, and we'll do it. But
awesome.
Martin, it's probably. I think you'll agree, Jamie. It's probably the best thing to let Martin choose the code word for
yeah, code word. It's putting him on the spot a little bit, but at the same time,
that's where you get the best or the worst ideas. So either way, we win.
I mean, true.
What have we discussed that could be
good? Actually, can I say a few things? I think I'm going to veto perhaps any mention of ducks and any mention of any dictators who may or may not have been active between the years 1939 and 1945, just because I'm getting slightly cold feet about the territory.
Okay. What about the?
That's the joy of podcasting. Is they're long enough that you can regret jokes that you made on the exact same thing.
I do have one, but it's probably
paraplegic psychic.
Yeah,
I think that might
and good
be
luck spelling it.
What was it?
Paraplegic clairvoyant.
Or clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant.
Yeah, two nice words there for you to spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would do. Paraplegic clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if anyone knows how to do a strike through on their text in YouTube, see if you can do the tagline that Martin came
What
up
was
for
it?
our
Mind,
film
body,
in
soul,
the comments.
but the
Mind, body, soul,
Yeah.
body crossed out. Yeah.
I don't know if you can do strike throughs on YouTube, but if you find a way, then that would be a pretty special comment. I'll give it a heart if I remember. And with that, let's put a bow on this thing. So once again, thank you, Martin, and thank you as well, Chris, for giving up your evening as
Thank you
always
for hosting,
and staying
Jamie.
so bright and energetic and bubbly as always. And my pleasure, of course. And thank to you, the viewer or listener at home, whether you're watching along on YouTube, whether you're listening on a podcasting platform of your choice, maybe even listening in on Paisley Radio live on Thursdays and Mondays. I don't know. It can happen. Let us know if you are. You can let us know on Twitter. You can reach out at SuperShow. You can leave a comment in the comments down below if you're on YouTube. And you can support us and Just Interesting on Patreon. Patreon.com/SuperShow. Patreon.com/Just Interesting. Support up and coming creators who have full-time jobs and do these things so late in the evening that it's literally the next day by the time they finish.
Oh, God.
And with that, we say thank you and good night, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.